Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, I am very simply known as Ashton Gene Lewis. You're listening to the Broke Boys Sports Podcast, and the other member of the Broke Boys, not as broke as me, but pretty broke, is Martin Pape, ladies and gentlemen. You see him over there. He's
How's it
hyping
going,
himself
Ashton?
up. I can safely say I'm still alive today. Very thankful for that. Not a lot of people had that opportunity to wake up today. And I'm going to maximize it by sitting here with all the lovely people watching us on twitch.tv / Broke Boy Sports, all the people listening to us live on Spreaker, all the people who will listen to this podcast after we're done recording it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Deezer, on Google Podcasts, and a flurry of other, including iHeartRadio, and a flurry of other podcast networks. You can just type in Broke Boy Sports Podcast. And thankfully to say, we are popular enough that when you type in Broke Boy Sports Podcast, we're the only thing that comes up. So, yeah,
Yep.
Martin.
Ashton,
Oh,
another week in the
yeah,
books. This is the Tuesday episode, so this is where we do a little look back at the past week. And before we get into all the action, break down the fantasy, the pick 'em, talk about some rookies out there, the fantasy nuke. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who the fantasy nuke is this past week. We got a couple of things. We got a couple of injuries to get to later on, and of course, a look back at all the week 6 action. But before that, Ashton, we got to talk about our friends over at Thrive Fantasy. Go ahead and download that Thrive Fantasy um, app on your phone, Google Play, the Apple App Store, and it. Oh, we're trying to do a promo here on Twitch, but you can't see the can't see our. Looks like we lost our logo for everything. But if you just give me 1 second, you can see it right there above Tom Brady's head where it says use the code BrokeBoy after you download it. There we go. Having a little technical difficulty on that one. But anyways, go ahead and download Thrive Fantasy. Use the code BrokeBoy. When you put $20 down, you'll get $20 right back. If you were getting in on the prop action this past weekend like I did, unfortunately, Ashton, I keep getting so close to making it in the money. It's ridiculous. But
it's a
uh,
lot. It's a lot of good guys that are
dude,
making those picks
oh,
on Thrive Fantasy.
100%. But if you thought Lamar Jackson was going to throw for more or less than 225 and a half passing yards, then you get some points for betting the over and some points for betting the under. If you think Tom Brady was going to have 23 and a half completions against the Packers, then of course you would do that bet. And then this one was the most interesting one. Is it you would think he would only hit it for the passing touchdowns. At Ashton, Aaron Rodgers this past weekend, he was at 2.5 for passing touchdowns plus interceptions. And as we all know, he kind of struggled a little bit. I don't think he actually hit it um, because the touchdown was the touchdown a run or was it they took that touchdown off the board. So
Yeah, they scored the Packers scored 10 points, and we'll talk about
yeah,
what happened after they scored those 10 points. Because if you were one of those people who only watched the first like 6 minutes of the game, you were probably really surprised about what happened after they scored those 10 points.
yeah, Ashton. But you, myself, and a couple other people are in a fantasy league. So before we dive into the deep
Naturally, the one thing that nobody cares about or wants to talk about, we'll be starting our podcast off by
yeah,
talking about here.
we bury the lead on the show here. If there's one thing about the Broke Boys, we like to get the other stuff out of the way on Tuesdays before we get into the meat. You know, some people like to eat the veg before the meat. You know what I'm saying, Ashton? So let's take a look at this past week because my team, I was on the fucking struggle bus to say the least, Ashton. I had to play the first ranked team in the league, and my team just decided they didn't want to show up this past weekend, Ashton. I lost 137.25 to 66.2, and what makes it worse, Ashton, if the people watching on Twitch right now can see me scroll down, I my bench outscored my starters this week because Justin Jefferson, who
Oh,
was
the
close.
deadliest of the deadliest
Oh,
fuck
dude,
ups.
yeah, Justin Jefferson and Brandon Cooks both on my bench. I don't think it would have saved me, as I was one of the people that started Aaron Rodgers in fantasy. Um, but yeah, or actually, so Devontae Adams did catch a touchdown. So, oh wait, no, he didn't. I lied. So yeah, yeah, Aaron Rodgers only 5 points in fantasy. In a different league that I'm in, he actually, I believe, finished with negative points overall um, because of how interceptions are weighed. But yeah, just my team a little bump in the road. We're third still in the standings, Ashton, but not a good outing when you're playing one of the top teams in the league for my squad.
So in our mediocre fantasy football league, which is the one that has us and a couple of viewers of the podcast and on Twitch and everything like that, we, your boy lost to his arch nemesis. Which, by the way, I'm officially calling Frosty Nugs my arch nemesis. So
Yeah.
congratulations, Frosty Nugs, who hops in the chat on Twitch and everything. He's friends with Martin. He and I disagree on pretty much everything except the greatness of LeBron James.
Hmm.
Even oh, and
No, the
whether or not the
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
Yeah, he apparently
Yeah,
he hates the
and
Cardinals just
it's
as much as you.
we don't hate the Cardinals. We know that they're frauds. We'll talk about that later on in the show as well. I lost Frosty Nugs by 5 points, but your boy lost in a pretty embarrassing fashion because it came down to, because if you guys don't know, I'm in 7 different fantasy leagues plus the pick'em every single week, which we'll talk about there because I feel like I did really badly on that. I didn't check the final results, but the pick'em, I'm sorry, the fantasy mediocre fantasy football league, I lost by 5 points. Would have won if I had started Aaron Jones instead of Jarrett McKinnon
Mm,
because I forgot to switch them out.
yeah.
So,
Or Mark
yep.
Ingram. Mark Ingram.
No,
Is it
no,
time to
no.
say goodbye to Mark Ingram in
Hey,
fantasy
hey, hey,
rosters,
hey,
Ashton?
hey. I'm riding Mark Ingram like what is it? Doctor Love Strange in
Uh
the movie where he rides the nuke into Earth and Earth explodes.
huh.
That's me. That's me.
Going down
I'm
with the
not.
ship on that one.
Yeah, because it hurts like in my mind. Okay, so my seemingly intelligent mind is just like he's a starter. Like we can't just be out here dropping starters, bro.
Yeah,
Like
especially
dropping
running
starters
backs.
into the starting running backs into the waiver wire, bro. Maybe we just sit him on the bench for the rest of the season. Maybe we do something else. But taking him out of the lineup, he's giving me he's got me 7 points, which by the way I think is season high for like most people's leagues is like 11.
Yeah.
But he's got a touchdown in like 3 games or something like that because J.K. Dobbins is the red zone running back in case you haven't been able to piece that together. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, Mark Ingram slowly but surely losing the rap battle between him and the young, spry J.K. Dobbins out of Texas. So not out of Texas as in the school, but Texas the state.
Yeah. From
Fuck
my
Texas.
area, from the Austin area, he went to school in Lagrange, I believe. We did a little research on that before the season started. One of the players that we said we're gonna get to a little rep watch here in a second. He was one of the players actually we talked about. He could eat into some of the carries that Mark Ingram has, and
Yeah,
it's
and
proven
him and
right.
Gus Edwards doing his thing too. Gus the bus is back. Remember, Gus was the primary back before Mark Ingram got there and before J.K. Dobbins got there, which obviously because he's a rookie this season. So they've got 3 legit guys that they could, if they needed to, just hand the ball off to and lean on. And luckily for them, Gus's biggest weakness is probably the receiving aspect of it. But when it comes to hitting dudes in a hole, oh, he's top notch, but he just doesn't get as many carries because power backs are a dying breed in the NFL.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the only one that's not extinct. Like he's the last unicorn out there in the world, and it's because of some other things, genetic freaking combined with hard work and dedication as well. But yeah, your boy lost in probably the most embarrassing fantasy fashion possible, where you don't start your best players and
Yep.
you messed up. But I will say, in my punishment league, which is the one we drafted on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, boys on a 3-game win streak. Played the
Nice. There
worst
you
team.
go.
I played the guy who's been trying to make really bad trades the entire season. He sends you trades at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I played him and won. So we talked about him on the last podcast. If you want to hear about that, go check it out. I won in pretty dominant 101 to 89. I call that pretty dominant fashion, but that was without Russell Wilson. I also won multiple fantasy games in a Yahoo league with Gardner Minshew as my starting quarterback.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I'm elite. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, I mean, when it comes to this fantasy shit, man, I'm bad at math, but I'm good at numbers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So other than that, man, Martin, move on to the pick'em here. I feel like I dropped down to third place or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pick'em is between basically right now it's between me, you, and another guy whose name is Ted Wardio, Teddy Costa. He's a member of Team USA Quidditch. He's a pretty good. He's a guy who likes to watch football breakdown videos like myself,
Yeah.
and he's a guy that I know. So we were teammates 2 seasons ago. We were pretty cool with each other and everything like that. But your boy was I got a six. I had 64% correct percentile coming in, 64% correct accuracy on my picks, and now I'm down to 63. So it couldn't have gone well based off of what that says.
Yeah, Ashton, both of us having our worst weeks pick 'em wise of the season, and there's a couple of games that definitely stand out for the reason for us not doing too well. I got 8 correct, you got 7 correct, but Ted did all right as well. But you and I went out on a limb on a couple of games, and of course the Texans. You and I were all in on them beating the Titans, and
We were
it
right
took
until we were wrong.
it took overtime for us to not be proven right. The Giants, they got their first win of the season. And then the other game that I got wrong, and I think a lot of other people got wrong. Actually, 86% of people on the ESPN Pick'em app got wrong when the 49ers gave the Rams or beat the Rams 24-16 in a weird game, I'll say the least, when we get to that one. But yeah, just not the best week
Gotcha.
overall.
Yo, Martin, can you repeat that? Can you repeat that one because you broke up on my end and I don't know
Oh,
if it got recorded. So try tell me about that game one more time.
Oh, I was talking about the Rams 49ers, where the
Yeah,
49ers won 24-16. 86% of people on ESPN's pick the Rams. And when we get to that breakdown, that was just a weird game. I don't know how much you got to see of it. I watched a little, almost all of it on Sunday night.
Martin, Martin, I'm gonna tell you this right now. That was probably out of all the games I watched, I think I watched with like my own two eyes about I want to say I watched about 75% of the games, and then the other ones I did my research and read articles and looked at responses on Twitter, looked at some film breakdown and what as well for those games, and what else? What else did I do? Oh, of course, like just doing my numbers research and everything, which doesn't give you exactly the full picture of what happened, but I looked at like the play-by-play breakdown, like how things went. Shout out to Pro Football Reference, like one of the best resources on the planet when it comes to getting information. They are super detailed. It's just a bunch of spreadsheets, and if you take the time and are willing to understand and know your stats all that well, you too can be a knowledgeable football fan. But yeah, we'll talk about that game. I actually have a lot to say about it because
Yeah.
it was a Kyle Shanahan masterpiece, and we'll talk about why.
The game that pissed me off the most from this past weekend, Ashton, the Denver Broncos beating the New England Patriots and all of their points coming from their field goal
Did it
kicker.
piss you off because what we said on Thursday actually happened? Because we said it flippantly and we didn't think it was going to happen because we thought the talent difference between the Patriots and the Broncos was so large. When technically we are correct. The talent difference between the defense of the Broncos and the offense of the Patriots is very large in favor of the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that as well, man.
Ashton, next quick segment we got here before we get to the fantasy nuke. We got a little rookie rollout to talk about. One player going up against the Bears this past week and having his best game of the season so far.
Yeah, once again, the rookie rollout is where we talk about rookies this past season who looked really, really well. There was one guy that almost universally said that people have been saying that he performed pretty at a high level is Derek Brown, defensive tackle out of Auburn for the Carolina Panthers. He had his best game of the entire season against one of the toughest opponents the Panthers have played up against because he was on the field a lot because of what happened in that game. But he had one of his best games of the entire season. He had two pressures on his like 31 rushes or something like that, which is really good for a defensive tackle. Even if the Bears offensive line is sketchy at best, he still was out there making a difference. And you can tell by the score he had an impact on the game because the Bears didn't score all that many points to go along with it. But yeah, rookie rollout. Derek Brown is the guy that I wanted to shout out there.
All right, next on up here is the fantasy nuke, Ashton. So,
This player,
well,
just
before
give
we get
people
into
break.
this,
Just
we
give them a
want
breakdown of what the nuke is in general. The
yeah,
nuke
yep.
is, I mean, everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's that one player that, sometimes they're just a good player on your team, right? They're the guy who can depend upon consistently to go out there and get you a certain amount of points. That's a guy when they score single digit points, you're kind of shocked. You're very shocked about what happened. It actually makes you, sometimes in the case of if you're a football fan, like overall, not just of your own personal team, you want to know what the hell happened. You want to know what the other team did. You think he got hurt sometimes if he scores under double digit points, and then there's the ones that just come out of nowhere, right? You can't. There's nothing you can really do if the nuke comes from like underneath you. There's a big difference between the nuke coming from underneath you can't see it, and the nuke falling from the sky, and you have 30 minutes to get out of the way, and you choose not to get out of the way, right? And
Yep.
the nuke this week is a king. He's of royal descent. King Henry, Derrick Henry, out here being the absolute freak of a human being that he is, ladies and gentlemen. The only man in the NFL to have multiple 90-plus yard rushes ever in the history of the NFL, I believe it is. And Martin,
I called
he
this
tore
one.
it up. He's another player who scored 40-plus points
Yeah, that
this
seems to
season.
be the barrier of hitting the fantasy nuke. And as Ashton was explaining the fantasy nuke's basically like the first quarter is going on and the alarm is sounding that the nuke is incoming. The second and third, Yep, and it's getting louder and louder, and by the fourth quarter, and for this one, actually overtime as well, it is literally like the bomb just dropped, and that's literally what Derrick Henry did to the Texans. He ran
This is
all
a
over
guy.
them all day.
I was gonna say this is the kind of player that if it happens in the first round of games, you just stop opening the fantasy app.
Yeah, like if
You
it
just
just
like it
yeah,
doesn't matter what the rest of my team does,
yep,
unless I have one of the other nukes. It does not matter because there's one player. If there's a player on the other guy's team that accounts for three other players' combined points,
yeah.
you got yourself a big problem.
Yeah. So he finished the day with what, 265, 264 yards through the air and on the ground, which I mean, does has Derrick Henry how many I would like to know Derrick Henry's career receiving yards and if
Yeah,
this
Derrick Henry had more receiving yards this week than any wide receiver for the Chicago Bears.
yeah, which is just wild. He's yeah, it's ridiculous.
58, 58, right? It's 58.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah,
he
he went out there and did the damn thing, man. He did.
Ashton, this was his receiving yards in every game except for the Texans. All right. Week 1, 15. Week 2, 0. Week 3, 11. The next game, week 6 yards. Then he plays the Houston Texans, who can't stop a flood or whatever. Like can't can't stop anything. I can't remember what the fucking little saying.
Nosebleed.
Yeah, can't stop a nosebleed, and he basically just fucking this is the craziest part for me, Ashton. 22 attempts, 9.6 yards per carry. This man almost
Okay, so
averaged a first down, even though he had the long of 94 yards.
let's put it in context here, right? Like he had a gigantic receiving play, right?
Yep.
In overtime that gave him a lot of his receiving yards, and he also had a 91-yard rush versus the Texans for a touchdown. So take that out, it is still a fucking great game for a running
Exactly.
back.
Like you and we're gonna get into more of the Texans and Titans here in a minute, but you and I literally said I can almost remember the words word for what you said. The Titans' best thing that they do is the worst thing that the Texans do, and it came to fruition, Ashton, and
The
it
Titans
was
lead the NFL in missed tackles.
the Titans do or the
No,
Texans.
sorry, the Texans lead the
Yeah,
NFL in missed tackles, guys.
and they had to go
They
up against.
also they also surrender the most yards after contact.
Yeah, it's ridiculous watching
They,
this
I mean,
defense.
by the way, like, and then of course, like, it just so happens that they have in their division the rookie wide receiver with the most yak yards in the NFL, and then on top of that, the running back with the most yak yards in the NFL as well, just like flat out yak yards.
Yeah,
So,
good luck.
um, yeah. By the way, um, no, we'll talk about it later. We
Yeah,
won't get into that game. Derrick Henry, absolutely amazing, dude.
he was a
Shout out to
fantasy nuke
him.
for sure.
A guy that you all like. See, there's this thing like when it comes to the Cowboys, like I said on the show all the time, right? Like I like Dak Prescott a lot. I like CD Lamb a lot. I like Sean Lee when he's 100% healthy because the one season that Sean Lee was 100% healthy, they were able to go to the playoffs. And it says a lot about his impact on the season because he's done for the year again.
Mhm.
But I like a lot of individual players, even though they're on teams that I despise with a white hot passion in my heart.
Yeah, it's
But
hard. It's hard as a Texans fan to like Derrick Henry, but you've got to give him credit for where credit is due. That man is like,
he's the ultimate version of a running back, man. He's big, strong, and fast. He's everybody's worst
yeah,
nightmare. Because
he,
like, and once again, we talk about like this is a guy who's not like when he gets he's not the dude that just runs guys over, right? He's too fast for dudes to get in front of him and be square with them. So people are usually tackling him from off of a platform, and he's already too strong to get knocked off his platform. Like he's too when he's balanced and when he's running, it's so wild. And if you don't think Derrick Henry is fast, you got to be some kind of stupid. He's 6'3", and you can see him play, and his legs may not be getting complete. He doesn't look like a sprinter where their knees are like touching their chest when they're taking off and running. But you can tell when he gets into the secondary, he's just running away from secondary players. That's like elite level speed. Him in a straight line is bad news for
oh
everybody, including his own teammates sometimes.
yeah.
So
So before we move on to the rep watch, Ashton, is this is the part where we want to give an honorable mention before he self sabotaged himself getting the nuke. So we mentioned the Denver Broncos and the fact that all of their kicks or all their points, excuse me, came from kicking a field goal. Brandon McManus, I texted Ashton and I said, "This man, is this the fantasy nuke of the season?" And Ashton said, "A kicker?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, go look. He's got like 20 something points in every fantasy league. And like some fantasy leagues even give you points based off of the the distance and not just 3 points for making a kick. So like
Yeah.
some leagues he was probably close to 40 points, but then he went on Twitter, Ashton, and basically self-sabotaged himself from being the nuke.
Yeah, so Brandon McManus went on Twitter and said, "On my doubted," because he took how many people who had him in the had him starting in their leagues, right, or had him on their roster in their leagues, and it
Yeah.
was like it was like 2% or something like that. And if you know anything about fantasy kickers, like most people usually just go to the waiver wire and pick up the best matchup available, or if you're smart, you go and find a team that you think has a good offense that will be kicking a lot of PATs,
Hmm.
and or more than likely good enough to get to the red zone but not be able to finish. And
The Kaimi Fairbairn special. That's
yeah,
what like if you ever are in the last round of your fantasy league in the draft and you don't have a kicker, just go and get the Texans kicker as long as it's not Randy Bullock, and you're going to be getting some points out of the kicker position because Kaimi Fairbairn, I don't know if you know this, Ashton, he is on pace to break the all-time scoring record career-wise for the Texans, and he's only been here or he's only been in Houston, I think like 3 or 4 years. So that just shows how often the Texans kick when they get down into the red zone, or just kick in general, because this is one of the things that we've known about the Texans the past couple of years is they can't, for some reason, figure out their red zone rows or just getting the ball in the end zone sometimes. It's really weird. But yeah, it was just funny. Brandon McManus um, kind of poked fun at people for not starting him. And then somebody in the comments section pointed out whatever fantasy league that Derek McManus got this screen grab from, didn't have that didn't have him on his own team. So I
yeah.
mean that just goes to show how much confidence he has in himself when he goes out there. But next up, Ashton, we got to talk about the rep watch. You've been keeping an eye on all 32 teams, the wide receiver reps, the running back reps, different positions, who's winning the battles. And while you take this one away, I'll literally be back in 15 seconds.
So about the rep watch, here we go at the top, man. I have to rescind a previous knockout that I declared. I declared a knockout last Tuesday and said that Melvin Gordon had taken over fully for the Denver Broncos offense as their starting running back. And I, I was wrong. I was wrong about Melvin Gordon mainly because I didn't anticipate the one thing that affects a lot of NFL careers: life. Melvin Gordon, of course, with the DUI, and then apparently he had some kind of illness as
I
well.
think it was
So
strep
hopefully,
throat. If you're talking about Melvin Gordon for the Broncos, they
yeah,
said it was strep throat.
yeah. Also, you can assume that there's some kind of suspension coming down because it's like a violation of the code of conduct for an NFL player,
Yeah.
and it turns into some sort of fine or whatever. I'm sure they'll adjudicate that once they figure out whether or not Melvin Gordon is going to be charged with a DUI or found guilty for a DUI, which I'm assuming won't happen for like a couple months. But technically, the NFL can suspend him without knowing what happens in the legal case. But anyway, I'd like to rescind that KO. The field is back open wide again. Philip Lindsay ran for 101 yards, which I think is the first time he's cracked 100 yards in about a year and a half
Trade
because
him
he,
right now. If you have him in fantasy football, Philip Lindsay, or actually, you may want to keep him if like Ashton said, Melvin Gordon might be getting suspended, but I feel like this is one of those trade high type of situations, Ashton. See if you can get the most value out of him. But yeah, sorry, I was just I've got him in a couple of leagues, and that's what I'm trying
he's
to
like,
do right
I've
now.
been, he's,
I've
Martin's like, I've been contemplating.
I've literally sent out a couple of feelers just to see like where the water is on Philip Lindsay after that performance. I've got one person interested, but like he wants to trade me a tight end, and I have Travis Kelsey, and I'm like, I don't like starting two tight ends.
You know the best part, the punishment league that I'm in, by the way, somebody has Travis Kelsey and George Kittle, so
Mm,
don't have to worry about good tight ends being on other teams because the two best ones are on one team, which is actually
yeah,
kind of nice because I don't have to worry about like finding a good one. I did find Irv Smith Jr. who played decently this past week. So other than that, man, yeah, I want to rescind that KO that I gave to Melvin Gordon for knocking out Philip Lindsay from the starting job because Philip Lindsay's back like he never left. Other things to point
insert
out,
or insert the Undertaker.
right, coming out of
Undertaker
the
coming out of
coffin.
the coffin dot gif.
You
There we go.
thought,
Yeah.
you thought. Other things to for actual rep watch this week, we do have a KO. I'm calling it again, Martin. We've got another knockout here. Ronald
Hopefully, you're
Jones
not
set.
jinxing this one either, Ashton Jinx Lewis, because anybody that follows me on Twitter at Martin Pape underscore or Ashton at FB underscore playbook, Ashton has himself a new nickname. It's now Ashton Jinx Lewis, as he put the big old jinx on the Houston Texans. But hopefully, you're not
Oh
jinxing Ronald
no.
Jones here, Ashton, because I've got him in my main money league, and I traded basically Darren Waller and C.D. Lamb for Ronald Jones and Travis Kelsey, and I think both teams we've both actually came out positive on that trade. But hopefully you're not about to jinx me
So I'd like to officially name it a knockout. It's a knockout. It's
here.
official. No standing 8 count.
Throw in the
Uh,
towel.
throw in the towel. Save him. Anyway, Ronald Jones has officially eliminated Leonard Fournette, who is hurt right now,
Mhm.
and Keyshawn Vaughn, rookie running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as who I was worried that Keyshawn was going to become a vulture, which would immediately make me hate him. I'm
Mhm.
kidding. I'm kidding. Keyshawn, keep balling, man. Get your money because I know you're on that rookie deal right now as
Yeah.
a running back. So get your money while you can. Well, Ronald Jones had 23 carries in their victory versus the Green Bay Packers and a perfect opportunity to pull him out of the game. Bruce Arians said, "Nah, fam, put him back out there." He had 23 carries. Everybody else had nine,
Yep.
nine, nine combined together.
Is
Everybody else who ran the ball,
is
right?
LaShawn McCoy still on their
Yeah.
roster?
Ooh, I'm glad you asked it like that because yes, he is.
Uh,
Which once again, it's a knockout. It's a KO, everybody. So yeah, Ronald Jones the second. Showing in dominant fashion versus the Green Bay Packers defense, which, by the way, had their worst performance of the entire season. If you couldn't tell from the 38 points that it wasn't 38 points. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. But the points that they surrendered, you can tell. But yeah, Ronald Jones was the big heart and engine of everything that they did. I've got a theory, Martin,
hmm,
about what this season for Tom Brady is looking like. Remind me when we get to the Buccaneers breakdown. I've got a theory about Tom Brady.
okay.
Anyway, Ronald Jones the second, rep watch knockout. He's got it. It's his. Don't expect anybody else to get in and and really get in the way of him being the number one back.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen. I mean, I didn't really see much of him until I mean, I knew how well he was doing, but I didn't really see much of like in-game action before he came on my roster, and now I literally click over to see how I mean, I watched a lot of that Tampa Bay game just to I was in one of the with a potential rival, as you would think in fantasy football, somebody that you just want to beat, especially one of the main people who spoke out against me getting Henry Ruggs back. And so, Ashton, if you believe in the fantasy gods, this past week, for the people that,
Oh
if you've been
God.
listening for the past 2 weeks about my Henry Ruggs struggle, um, the two main culprits of speaking out and making sure that what needed to be done didn't get done, they both lost this past week. So just throwing that out there, just letting it be known the fantasy gods, they are watching. But also gotta give a shout out to Ashton for pointing out that every single time this league has fucked me over with a roster spot, this actually came out to be a beneficial. So hopefully that continues here.
I tried to tell y'all, man. Anyway,
Yeah,
things have a way of balancing themselves out. But yeah, Martin, we move on to the saddest segment of the entire show, the big hurt, where we talk about all the injuries and all the people we might have to pour out for the entire season a
yeah.
little bit later on. And the first guy up, I actually have. I actually was going to talk a lot of shit about him, but maybe I won't. We'll see.
You better keep that Joe Mixon hate to yourself, buddy. But Joe Mixon, he left the game with an ankle injury. Um, Apparently, he came back, didn't really look too hobbled by it, but he has been listed as questionable for Week 7 of the NFL season. The Philadelphia Eagles, man, this is just pour one out for their entire fucking season. They like somebody I follow who's like a Eagles like reporter put out like a list of players that have missed at least one game for the Eagles so far, and it was so long in of a list it like when Twitter obviously Twitter will like when you click on the image it'll kind of you'll lose a couple of names. It was one of those ones where you click on it and it literally just goes whoop, like it was ridiculous the long list of players that have missed a game. But Miles Sanders, he hurt his knee. He's doubtful for week 7. Zach Ertz, he hurt his ankle. Ashton Nura is one, two, three, four, five, at least 5 players knocked out of their games this past week because of ankle injuries. Zach Ertz, he's out 3 to 4 weeks with his. Um, been kind of a struggle so far for the season for Zach Ertz, and now he's going to be on the injury report for the
Yeah,
next
Zach
couple.
Ertz is. I mean, if you guys should go look back at some of the injuries that Zach Ertz has played through for the sake of the Eagles and everything. Man, the dude's one. He is one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL. One of the most skilled and one of the deadliest weapons in the Eagles' offense.
Mhm.
But fact of the matter is, man, that dude be taking some hits,
Yeah.
bro. Like some nasty ones for the sake of going out there and getting that ball. So nothing but respect for him.
Jonnu Smith, tight end for the Titans. Anybody who was watching the Titans Texans game saw him hurt his ankle. He is questionable for next week. Mark Ingram the third, he hurt his ankle. The Ravens have a bye week next week, but he's already been listed as questionable, possibly doubtful for week 8. So that's a name that we'll be having to watch out for through the bye week. This one, he seems to hurt himself and get on the IR a lot since he became in the NFL. Ashton, he and Mostert, high ankle sprain. He's going to be on the short term IR, which means he
So
misses 3 weeks.
so in relation to Raheem's situation, that's 100% the 49ers try to get him to come back too early.
Yeah.
Like there's no they got him to come they tried to get him to come back too early and then he hurt himself in that game versus the Rams. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't even put him on, I wouldn't even put that on him. It was once again because you can see it happen across the board for the 49ers offense, right? Like they tried to get a couple of DBs to come back. Luckily, those guys aren't hurt because they've been so hit hard at defensive back. We talked about it on Tuesday. We talked about it on Thursday. The 49ers are signing dudes off other people's practice
Hmm.
squad to come and get like legit time on the field for them to play defense. They've also got Jimmy Garoppolo being the case in point of that situation, right? Like he came back and his ankle was hurt. We'll talk about how they mitigated and changed their offense up a little bit to reduce that issue. But yeah, man, he was one of the guys who they rolled the dice on coming back early, and I'm sure he, of course, signed off on it and everything. That's why he played. They rolled the dice on him playing and everything like that. Thought it would be like a pain management issue or something like that, and he went out there and he did something that it's like an MCL situation for him, right? I think it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
It's
bueno, not
unfortunate.
bueno.
And if you happen to be like me and dropped Jerick McKinnon, you're not too happy about this one. I had Jerick McKinnon starting up until this past week, and I dropped him because Raheem Mostert came back, and then now I'm gonna have to bid some
Too
money on
low,
him again. I'm
too
probably
low
not
on the
going.
waiver wire.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to. But this is the league. Like Ashton, these are my 5 running backs. Like I've got. So my starters are Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson, Ronald Jones the second, and then I've got Le'Veon Bell, Philip Lindsay, and oh wait, that's it. So I've got 5 running backs right now. So I didn't really need Jerick McKinnon, and so I
There's no
dropped
such
him.
thing as I don't need more running backs that get yards. So
Yeah, true that. But if you this is just the moment in the show where I remind people, even though I didn't do it myself, keep a hold of your backups, especially when the starter ahead of them is a little bit injury prone. So yeah, we move on. Uh, Offensive line for the Green Bay Packers got a couple of question marks now because David Bakhtiari, he hurt his chest during the game, and if you notice, that was almost the point in the game when things went south for the Packers offense. Well, actually, the pick six was when they went south, but David Bakhtiari got hurt. They're as of recording this on October 20th, Tuesday. I didn't see an update except the Packers don't believe it to be major, which is
it's hard to believe that something like such a rare situation, such a rare injury like a chest injury isn't major to
yeah.
me. But that's, what do I know? I'm not a doctor, nor am I a professional football player.
Next on the list is I
Poor,
believe
pour one
Ashton.
out for the homies that
Yeah,
didn't make it.
this is another negative impact on my Super Bowl picks. Ashton, last week it was Chandler Jones for Arizona. This week the Pittsburgh Steelers lose one of the best linebackers in the entire NFL. Devin Bush tore his ACL. He's out for the season. Um, not good for him. Hopefully he comes back stronger and better than ever when he comes back next season. But he was almost. I mean, it's safe to say he was a rising star on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. And to see him go down, and especially the play where it was going out of bounds, and his knee just buckles underneath him, it was rough to see. Unfortunate for him there.
Yeah, man. Devin Bush, one of the best pass rushers for the Steelers, man. So big, big ups to him for his in his recovery process. Hopefully, he's back better than ever next season.
Ashton and I called this segment the Big Hurt. We might as well call it the Tyler Eifert every week on here list. He re-aggravated his neck injury that he had suffered against the Texans, I believe. No update has been provided on that either.
Tyler Eifert just hadn't been the same since that one time he broke his ankle in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's just always something with him, and to see him come back and re-injure his neck, it's like why not just sit? You know he gets hurt. Why not just sit him down? Like your team's going nowhere this season. Why risk somebody injuring their neck more? This next one is one of the ones where if you were watching football this past Sunday, you saw the stretcher and everybody on their knees, praying, and a couple of players just in shock. We have sort of good news, Ashton. CJ Board, the Giants wide receiver, who was carted off the field and immediately taken to the hospital, he has since been released. They're saying it was only a concussion. There was worries that he may have done permanent damage to his neck and shoulder areas, but he sort of lucked out, and it's just a concussion. I didn't actually see the hit that it happened on, but it's good to hear that somebody rushed to the hospital. I mean, a concussion sucks, but
No doubt.
it's good to hear that he's going to be in the concussion protocol for now. But yeah, just one. I didn't get to see the hit. I haven't seen the hit, so I don't know how it happened.
Yeah, that's all we got for the Big Hurt segment. And as you can tell, nothing to be joyous about there, but it is an important part of football to recognize and an important part to. And luckily this week, I'm sure Martin could have gone out here and got all the ticky tack like little injuries because 1,000,000,001 people hurt their ankle on Sunday every single Sunday. But he went out there and got the big major ones for all the players that you've actually heard of and for players that get a ton of playing time. So it's good to, well, the only positive is that that list is a lot shorter than it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, true that. This is all those injuries and updates courtesy of NFL.com. So yeah, there's other players obviously that get hurt, like Ashton mentioned, but these are the ones that kind of stood out to me. The longer time frame have an impact on your fantasy team if you're into that type of thing, and just the players that are going to be missed while they're out because I mean it's always next man up in the NFL, but when some of the players like Zach Ertz and Bakhtiari, Devin Bush, when they're out for extended periods of time, they're going to be missed just in general. So this is we go from our least favorite segment of the show, Ashton, to our favorite part of the Tuesday episode, where now we get to look back, see where we were right in our pick'ems, where we were wrong, and as we are two Houston Texans fans, we're going to start with the Texans' overtime loss to the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. We've already talked about Derrick Henry exploding for 212 yards. You and I both picked the Texans in the pick'em, and like we said at the top, it took overtime to be wrong.
Had to finish that triple before we started talking about this game. It was a rough one overall. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, man. But fact of the matter is, when it comes to what the Houston Texans put out there, final score in that game was 36-42. I'll phrase it like this because everything I'm about to say is 100% factually true. The Titans are one of the best teams in the league. Supposedly, they're one of three undefeated teams in the NFL, and they gave up the best offensive performance the Texans have had all season. Season high for the Texans in points, pass attempts, completion percentage, completions, and also on top of that, passing touchdowns. They also were able to garner the fewest sacks that any team has been able to get against the Texans the entire year. Lowest amount of pressures that the Texans offensive line has given up this season as well. So if you heard all that, plus the fact that it took Derrick Henry rushing for 200 plus yards, getting 58 receiving yards, and it took Ryan Tannehill throwing for 4 passing touchdowns for them to beat a team that is 1-5, and you felt inspired by that to say that the Titans are one of the best teams in the NFL, you're probably a Titans fan.
Yeah, true that.
So,
you're also
because everybody else in the real world knows what that means, and we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, they're also are ignoring the schedule, Ashton. They're 5-0. After playing.
I know. There's a Titans fan that's always in my mentions. Shout out to Ryan. He's a big supporter of the show as well. But fact of the matter is, man, he's just like I don't get how you saying you feel like they're not good.
They're not
based off their schedule, and you say you don't feel like they're good. And I was like, nah, dude, I gave you facts. They are one of the worst teams in the NFL in getting pressure. They're one of the lowest teams when it comes to getting sacks. They have a positive turnover differential. and they're also getting turnovers at like a ridiculously high rate. So my question naturally starts to become, oh, by the way, this past Sunday was the first time that the Texans did not have a turnover in their game.
Yeah.
So, you know, but yeah, my question starts to become, when do you come to reality to realize one, and we'll talk about the combined record of their opponents a little bit later on in this show when we do 10 things you didn't want to know about week 6 of the NFL season. But fact of the matter is, man, like they at the very least, they are highly suspect as an NFL team, Martin.
Yeah. I could probably I could name you at least 5 teams straight up better than 5 to 10 teams maybe that are straight up better in my eyes than the Tennessee Titans so far this year. And my takeaway from this game is it's literally it was what was expected. Um, we both knew the Texans had to play their best game on both sides of the ball to have a chance. They didn't do that, and it still took overtime for the Tennessee Titans to beat them. The offense, you have been on it since week one. This offense is not a 1-5 offense. I tend to agree with that more now that we're 6 weeks in than when you were saying it in the first
Oh,
2 weeks.
now
No, no,
everybody
no, no.
knows that.
No,
Now everybody knows that Ashton's not the crazy guy. Okay, now
it's the
everybody sees what I'm.
obviously with the Texans, it's the defense. It's not the worst defense in the league, but
The Texans have one of the worst defenses in the league for sure.
yeah, it's
But
not the worst, but it's one of the worst.
and
And
we'll talk about how that actually may not necessarily be true at all either. A little bit because whatever. I'll tell you guys later. I'll tell you guys later at the end of the show. I promise. I promise. It'll all make sense at the end of the show. But yeah,
yep.
go ahead, Martin. You're
Uh,
finishing your point.
J.J. Watt officially 1 sack, but it was a strip sack.
You saw the one. You saw the one I was talking about. I thought it was the second one, right?
Yeah, the tackle for a loss or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I'll just making sure we're not crazy because I saw two, and I heard other people saying two, and I was just like,
well,
all right, man.
so that's what 3 on the season.
No, it's 5.
5
4.
4.
He has no. He has 3.
3. Yeah, there's 3 sacks through
He has
6
3
games.
plus this one, so 4 plus the tackle for loss.
Hold on. I'm looking right now. I'm bringing up J.J. Watt's stats.
By the way, he got his 99th sack.
Yeah, 99th sack. Congratulations.
Because he had He had 2 versus Lamar Jackson, and then he had one that they took away from Kirk Cousins because it was for 0 yards.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that later.
So he's got 3. Technically, the NFL says he's got 3 sacks this year.
Wow, that's brutal. That's brutal. How many tackles for loss?
Let's see. Tackles
Probably
for
like
loss.
2. Probably like 2.
I don't see that as a stat on where I'm looking at.
I will say this: PFF saying that he's playing better as the season goes on. So, if you,
I mean, he did have a good game. I'm not. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm talking to the people that don't watch the game. They're saying that JJ Watt is playing better and better as time goes on. They're just also playing like crazy high level competition. So
he had an impact on the game. I still want to see more from him. I know it's hard to ask when he's getting double or triple team. When he's getting the money that he's getting paid, he should at least. This is the stat line. At least I think he should be having not the forced fumble and all that stuff, but at least get me 1 sack a game, JJ. Come on. But Ashton, got to give credit where credit is due. Jadeveon Clowney did fuck all in this game. Jonathan Joseph, he did fuck all in this game. The ex-Texans, they didn't do fuck all. So there's a couple of bright spots for the.
Also, I will say this to Jadeveon Clowney's credit. He's probably still working on his conditioning, like his relentless pace and conditioning. To be honest with you, man, I also would love to see his run grade.
Yeah.
Although a lot of teams have been really good at stopping David Johnson, so.
Yeah, I think was it you? Did I send you the graphic of like the comparison between Derrick Henry and David Johnson on the day?
Oh
like,
yeah.
It was ridiculous. Like 100 and something yards for Derrick Henry running to the right hand side, where David Johnson got like 3 yards total. Or it was one of those weird stats where like if you're not a numbers nerd, it doesn't really mean anything. But like when it comes down to it, David Johnson's just poor, not hitting the holes right, not cutting back, just running straight at his own offensive lineman, just collecting his paycheck and moving on with his day, and it's brutal to watch.
Other thing to point out here about the Titans, this is actually really positive. Actually, I was really impressed with this, man. They had 11 drives throughout the course of this game. 3 of them got taken away because the Texans were able to get 3 turnovers in the course of this one. But the other drives, 80 yards, 85 yards, 76 yards, 82 yards, and a 94-yard drive. All those for scores. That was pretty impressive, man. I can't, you can't. I mean, we can sit here and talk about how we don't like Tennessee Titans fans all we don't, all we want. But the fact of the matter is, man, they went out there and they milked it for all it was worth. They went out there and got it done. They had a 100-yard receiver, a 200-yard rusher, and a 300-yard passer in a single NFL game, which is always impressive. If you saw the final score of the game, it was unimpressive. So bad loss, bad win, bad win.
Bad win for the Tennessee Titans. The Houston Texans. Um,
That was bad loss. I call it bad loss too.
bad just because of how bad the defense looked. Division game. You shouldn't be giving up 200 rushing yards. I mean, Texans have done it before in the past, but just the I don't know the offense. I think the offense is sort of fine. I mean, and I was talking to Frosty Nugs about this. I was hoping he would step in.
My arch. No, on this show you will address him as arch
Arch,
nemesis
your
Frosty
arch,
Nuts.
arch nemesis Frosty. I was hoping he would step in today because him and I had this conversation. If the Texans are going to be bad this year, I'd rather see it that like how that played out than how they
Martin, you
played
realize
against the.
if they play like they played Sunday, they're gonna beat more teams than they lose to. That's the
Yeah, the
problem.
the, the defense. It's going to be a shootout. Like I would rather it like be a shootout like it was every single week because at least even though the defense was atrocious from the word go, they were still somewhat competitive. It was still anybody's game up until the last drive of the fourth quarter and the first drive of overtime.
And to their credit, man, at one point they were down 21-7. They were
Yeah,
also
they
down
came back.
14-0.
Yeah.
And that's not something that shitty teams do in the NFL. So for people who don't get how the Texans work, that was like a free. I guess it was like a free. It was a seminar on like what a good team looks like in the NFL that has a tough schedule. So
Yeah. One of my Texans optimist friends when they went down, like he's one of the most optimistic people I've ever met about the Texans. Still thought Bill O'Brien needed to be fired, but was still supporting them type of thing.
I don't
Uh,
talk about Bill O'Brien anymore. So I'll have to let that one.
Even him when they went down early, he was like, "Oh shit, here we go. This one's about to get ugly." And then you look up a couple minutes later, and the Texans are right back in it, and gotta give
Oh,
them
by
credit.
the way,
Oh, are we gonna talk about the? Oh, go ahead.
stop talking shit about Will Fuller. Um,
Are-
like
are-
for like legit Texans, like fake Texans fans, bro. Like I get it. You talk about like legit criticism. Dude's been hurt consistently, but when he plays, he plays.
yeah,
So, yeah. But hey, man, they're looking a lot better, and I think it's once again shout out to Romeo Cornell out here going like we're going for this 2 point conversion.
I was just about to say,
I
do you
may
want to
have
talk
been
about it?
born in the year 1805, but we will be going for this 2 point conversion to
Yep.
finish this game off. Also, apparently, Mike Vrabel, evil mastermind. Who would have thought?
Did you
Who would
see?
have thought?
Did you? So two things really quickly before we move on. I am all for the two going forward on the 2 point conversion. I don't care if whoever that announcer was and every coach has the when do you go for two. Like he was harping on that so badly. The piece of paper when you go for two,
I mean, okay,
bro.
so
You're going
okay,
for the
Mark,
win. You're going
Mark,
for
I
the
was gonna
win.
say, yeah, that's not the phrasing. The phrasing is not go. We're going for two. The phrasing is we are playing to win this game.
Yes. Like he
Like,
like you got to remember how bad the Texans defense had been playing that entire day.
and to their point, they remembered really quickly
Yeah,
right after the Titans drove down the
exactly.
field.
If the Texans get the 2 point conversion there, it's over. The game is like the Titans would have had to go for two correctly or right? They would have went up. They would have been up 8.
Yeah,
So the
so the
Titans would
Titans
have
could
had
have
to.
gone for two for the win, and they chose not to do it. And they
Yeah,
could have gone for two for the win, and they had to kick the field goal if they wanted to go into overtime, which is what they
yeah.
chose to do instead of putting it on the line. Which
That
whatever
says
you
a
have
lot.
to say about that.
Finally, did you see um, where they asked Mike Vrabel if he took the 12 players on the field
Oh, guys, he
penalty?
did that on purpose
He
because, like I
100% did on
said,
purpose. He knows what
evil
he's doing.
mastermind. Shout out to him.
Look
Shout
look
out
what
to
his
Mike
coaching tree is. Look where he came from. Fucking Bill Belichick. He knows
Time Lord,
Bill
Time
Belichick.
Lord,
Yeah,
Time Lord Mike Vrabel.
Bill Belichick knows every rule in the rule book, and so if you get a defensive penalty late in the fourth quarter, that actually is a benefit for your offense. If you know the Texans are going to go in and score, which on that drive it looked like unless there was a turnover, they were going to get points. And so if you want your offense to have enough time on the clock or extra time on the clock and not waste a timeout, you take a 12 player on the field penalty.
And
Uh,
fact of
uh,
the matter is, that's like that's utmost faith in your offense to go out there and do
exactly.
this damn thing. So
He
if
knew what was gonna happen. He knew what Derrick Henry was
I'm
gonna
just
do.
saying, man, like it's like they know that internally, man. That's got to endear him to them to like
Oh,
no degree,
100%.
right? Like they're just like, yo, that guy had enough faith in us to be like, we taking this penalty on purpose.
Yep.
We know they're gonna score. We don't like, hey, defense. Sorry, guys, you guys been fucking up. We need to reallocate this time to more valuable resources, like being able to get back into this game.
We need to give
So
Ryan
shout
fucking Tannehill enough time to get down the field.
Hey
Like,
man, like it's got to we got to get past this whole mental block where we have about like Ryan Tannehill sucking, because let's be for real, like when he was with the Dolphins, that Dolphins team did not have like a great roster or anything
yeah.
like that. Don't forget that one time that they told him to let his ACL naturally heal, and then he came back the following season and tore it completely and missed a whole year. Let's not also forget who the head coach of that team was.
Yeah.
So
Anything else on this game, Ashton?
the last thing that I had, Bradley Roby, killer game, bro.
Oh, that INT was nice.
Yeah, the INT was nice. It was a great play on his part, which by the way, back to back games for the Houston Texans after going with 0 turnovers the first 4 weeks of the season, back to back games with them generating turnovers, and whether it's because the schedule is lightened up or because they have somebody who has more influence on what the defense and the offense is doing and is putting everybody in a better headspace because they believe in what they're doing is how they're going to win, or because maybe they're not walking on eggshells every time they walk into the building or whatever. It's panning out. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, Bradley Roby, 2 passes knocked down. So being close enough to just knock the ball down is insane in the NFL. And then on top of that, got an interception too. Interception that got the Texans in a position to take the lead and put the pressure and the onus on the Titans. So
Yeah.
great game. I'm sure a lot of people
It was
enjoyed
fun.
it, especially if you weren't a big believer in either one of those teams. You were just watching it for enjoyment. Fact of the matter is, man, like y'all keep perpetuating this lie that the AFC South is one of the worst divisions in the NFL, and it's hilarious to me.
The thing that pissed me off the most about the end of the fourth quarter and all that, it was absolute no fun. It was nobody's making plays for the Tennessee Titans. Like obviously AJ had the fucking touchdown in the end zone, but they're literally throwing to fucking a guy's last name is Fuchter, uh, a random
Fixture.
fucking a random ass wide receiver. I can't even fucking tell you his name right now. Like,
Oh, you're probably talking about Adam Humphries.
yeah, fuck that guy. Like, if I'm gonna get beat, I want to get beat. But obviously Derrick Henry did his thing, AJ did his thing, but the fact that they drove down the field, throwing the ball to absolutely fucking nobodies, that was just grinding my fucking gears. We move on, Ashton. I want to talk about something positive here, and I want to talk about choo choo. We're all aboard, baby. Choo choo. The train is leaving the station. The 4-2 Cardinals, or now the 4-2 Cardinals, handily take care of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are still first in the NFC East, even though they're 2-4, Ashton, and they look like they could get beat by a college team. The Cardinals come out here. Here's my biggest takeaway: the Cowboys need to trade the fucking house, like trade your house, your car, everything. Get Kyler Murray on your team so that you never lose a game at AT&T Stadium. That dude is 7-0 now, dating back to his days in high school, inside that stadium that Jerry built. Get Kyler Murray on the Cowboys. I can't believe I'm saying that. Anyways, keep him on the Cardinals because he gets to throw the ball and then have some fun with DeAndre Hopkins and the rest of the Cardinals squad. Is they probably had their defense looked. I mean, we're talking about the
By
Andy
the way,
Dalton.
DeAndre Hopkins is leading the NFL in receiving yards.
Yeah, and
Just
he also had his worst game of the season. If he didn't have that one deep catch, he would have finished the day with one catch for 6 yards. And even Kyler Murray, he went I think like 9 of 20 overall, but it was his feet, the little dual threat man that he is. His feet got him into the end zone a couple of times. Got to give him credit. Monday Night Football, and we got to see a surrender cobra from the Cowboys in the third quarter. We got to see a guy being consoled by his girlfriend because he's crying at the game. Um,
iconic, truly
oh,
iconic.
that one's gonna be a gift for a
Shout out to
while.
her. Shout out to her. Shout
Oh
out to
yeah,
her, man.
she was showing some mad love. Then we had the classic New York Yankees Dallas Cowboys fan in the stands. We had two dudes dressed up as like wrestlers, I guess, like Rey Mysterio looking wrestlers, and they looked sad. Um, God, it was great to be a anti-Dallas Cowboys
If you guys
person.
couldn't tell, Martin was feasting off your tears. That's
Oh, it was great, dude.
he was fat and happy last night
Oh
off the
my God, it
sadness of
was.
it. He lived off the essence of the universe last night. By the way, bottom of the fourth in game one of the World Series, and the Dodgers are up 2-0. So Clayton
Yeah,
Kershaw back at it again.
yeah. Maybe all that
Like
money will buy them a shortened season World Series. Yeah. Back to the game at hand. The Cardinals 38-10. Ashton. This is obviously the first game without Dak Prescott. You and I think, are as far on different end of the spectrums as we can be on
not true.
Andy Dalton, because
Oh, we both know Andy Dalton sucks. I don't know
oh
what you're
no
talking
no,
about.
I'm saying about the difference between Dak and Andy Dalton.
Oh
Um,
yeah, man. Like
can 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 we talk of like the only difference was the stats, like the stat, like the stuffed stats. That's the only difference.
no,
Instead of it
Dak would
being a
Dak the
400
Dak
yard
led
game.
Dallas Cowboys would have beat that Cardinals
Oh,
team
fuck
without a doubt.
off. No, they would not have, dude. It would have been the exact same. We had the random ass turnovers that the Cowboys are known for this year. We had terrible defense. Dak has no control over that defense.
Yeah, Dak doesn't have control over that defense, but like fact of the matter is, Martin, like there has not been a game where the pass offense has looked bad, right? Like what happened last night and the ability, like, and I get it, Zeke fumbled the ball twice, and there's nothing really you can do about that. You can beg the question of like if that ball even gets thrown to Zeke in that type of situation, right? But the situation is, man, like they he would have eviscerated how bad that Cardinals defense is, and
They're
that
not
was actually
bad.
they're very bad, Martin, and
No,
I
they're
guess you'll
not.
see that. You'll see that in due time. But my primary takeaway from this game was like the Cardinals had their best defensive performance of the entire season. They
Without their
just
best defensive
they
player.
they also had their best defensive player, which sad to say is a defensive end, because that didn't really help you all that much in terms of like making tackles in the open field and everything. But they generated pressure. That was a great change defensively for them, and it's what really, I mean, generated pressure against a quarterback that even in a good pocket is still making mediocre plays. They dropped Andy Dalton from below average to one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL in one night, and that is key. That's key because like after based off of week 6, like Andy Dalton finishes like bottom 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Um, he threw an interception. They had the situation with the 2 fumbles, which is like we saw that happen in the Falcons game. It's something, by the way, that at a certain point we have to just accept that that's what defines the Cowboys season, right?
Yeah,
That
they're
is
turnover
something
prone.
that's a factor that defines the Cowboys season. They have the worst turnover differential in the NFL with minus 12, and it's no surprise that they've only been able to win 2 games. And I think wholeheartedly, some of the decisions that are getting made would be totally different. And honestly, the ball getting pushed down the field is a lot different when Dak is back there. So, and also RIP to one of the greatest offensive lines in NFL history because
Oh
it's
yeah, what
officially
happened
dead.
there?
Like
What
it
happened?
it's it's injuries, man, retirements. You had retirements, you had like medical stuff that went on with people. Tyron Smith's done for the year. Travis Frederick left that game in the first quarter, I believe it was, or first or second quarter when it was all said and done, man. And none of those guys, like we talked about versus Myles Garrett when they played the Browns, they had a free agent right tackle going up against Myles Garrett, the guy who led at the time the NFL in sacks. That's a problem. That's like a huge problem. And there's nothing they can do right now in the midst of the season to fix that issue, man. And that's actually my question, Martin. Are the Cowboys like mentally broken,
They
like to
look
the
like it.
point? Like, and I get it, man. And by the way, let's put this in context. The Arizona Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys have played many a time over. A lot of the times the Cowboys are going to the Cardinals, and every time that they show up to play in whatever the name of the stadium is at that time, but right now it's the University of Phoenix Stadium. They the Cowboys take over their stadium because that's how rabid their fan base is, right? They're everywhere. They're all over the
They're
place. Uh,
America's team.
which, by the way, if the Cowboys ain't defining exactly what America is like in the year 2020, I don't know what does. Um,
Good one.
just facts. Like it's all there. Also, one final thing because we need to stop talking about like an absolute destruction of a game. Kyler Murray cooked the worst defense in the NFL. Right? Totally
Yep.
expected that to happen. Not surprised at all. They got destroyed by a toddler. But Jerry Jones better pick up the phone before the price go up
the, I'm
again.
telling you, the difference was like we just see totally different on Dak.
Yeah,
Like
it's because one
it's
of us is right and then the other one is you, man.
dude, I mean, the
I'm telling
completion
you, man. Like
percentage was literally identical. Like
to what game?
to Dak, Dak sees like Dak's 68% so far this season. Andy Dalton 65. It wasn't that big of a drop off. There was
Do you
only
think that? So okay, so we want to talk about context, right? We can look at completion percentage in terms of those passes being completed. You can also complete 65% of your passes if you're throwing 2 yard routes every single time, right? Like if you're throwing the curls, if you're only throwing to the running back, which we know is not true. We know because guess what, Martin? Like it's week 6 is over, and still the number one passer in the NFL in terms of yards is Dak
because
Prescott.
he stuffs his stats, bro. Like, what do you like? I don't understand. Like, they were 2-3, and he's leading the NFL in passing. Go look
You
at
see the
that
difference
list.
because I think
Go
every
look at the list of the top 5 passers.
yeah,
Four of them
I
have
know what it
under
is. Matt Ryan's
500.
like number two. Matt
No,
Ryan's
no,
like
no.
number two.
Yeah, four of them are on some of the worst offenses in the NFL. Like
They're
it.
not worse offenses, they're worse teams. Like that's one half of it. Once again,
Yeah,
we talked about like how the Cowboys are on. They have a top flight offense. They also have the worst defense in the NFL. They like their locker room is polar opposites. They're all wearing the same uniform, but one of them is bottom 5, possibly bottom 2 in the NFL, and the other one is top 2 in the NFL. There's a big difference. And I get it, the turnovers are a huge, huge problem, but I can tell you this right now, Martin, there was a collection of people that thought the team was not going to have a massive drop off. There's a collection of people who thought that somehow the Cowboys, when they put their backup quarterback into the game, was going to get better.
yeah. Well,
And I was
I
like,
mean,
I guess that, by the way, I question how many Bengals games those people have watched the
well,
past
yeah.
decade.
So here's the people saying that Andy Dalton is the best backup in the NFL. I don't
Not sure if
believe.
Jameis Winston is.
I was gonna say you got Jameis Winston, you got fucking now Ryan Fitzpatrick is. We're gonna get to that eventually, but I mean you got Tua as a backup. You got so many other quarterbacks I could
The
probably.
disrespect to
I mean,
Jameis Winston is
Case,
hilarious to me,
give me
man. Like,
Case Keenum before you give me fucking Andy Dalton.
oh yeah, I take Case Keenum because guess what? Case Keenum will get his head knocked off his shoulders for the sake of a win.
Exactly.
Case Keenum has proven it 10. I don't know how to tell you. Case Keenum is the definition of wily vet in the NFL. If they get, I would dare say if they had given him that entire game versus the Steelers, they scored another touchdown.
Yeah, maybe.
They
So
scored more than 7 points. I guess we might. Hey, Martin, fuck around and we might find out this week. So,
yeah.
like,
So our biggest takeaway is Ashton and I are very high. See the offense of the Cowboys highly different without Dak. The Cardinals did. Here's the thing: when you play a bad team, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to
supposed to beat
fucking
them.
beat them, and that's exactly what the Cardinals did. Put them away, everything like that. Even though the first quarter, no points between either team. Let's move on to the next game on the list, Ashton. This one was billed as supposed to be one of the best games of the entire week, and it turned into an absolute blowout. The Steelers improved to 5-0, taking care of the.
Y'all let that hype get to you a little
Yeah,
bit too much, man.
yeah,
Y'all let these dudes fool you, man. Like at the
yep,
end of the day, they the Cleveland Browns, dog.
yep.
Like
38-7.
there's just some things that like scientifically you can't overcome. When you got Browns DNA, there's certain things that you can't change about yourself. But yeah, I'll take it from here, man. Baker Mayfield was pressured on more than 50% of his dropbacks, Martin.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield, when not pressured, is not very good. Oh, I'm sorry, slightly above average. When pressured, bottom 5 in the NFL. One of the worst quarterback performances this entire season. One of the worst quarterback performances of Week 6, and that's saying a lot because Aaron Rodgers played this week. So that is one of those things, man. He dropped back under pressure the whole time. He got sacked 4 times. He had 2 interceptions. One of them went for a touchdown for the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the Steelers are number 1 in the NFL in getting pressure. And we'll talk about the Steelers a little bit later on as well because they have something that makes me think that I know absolutely nothing about the NFL based off of once again, top 10, the 10 things you didn't want to know about NFL Week 6 could be mind blowing because, Martin, we may be on the cusp of one of the greatest bamboozles in the history of the NFL. So, anyway, moving on. Steelers are number 1 in pressure in the NFL. Half of the Browns' drives were 3 and outs.
Yep.
3 turnover on downs is what they had. And their longest play of this entire game was 9 plays. 9. The Steelers defense has fractions of times where they look unstoppable, but if you look at the stats, there are certain teams that have been able to take advantage of the fact that they blitz a lot. They blitz, I think it's down to 46%, but the new advanced stats have not updated. They update tomorrow, but they have 46% of the time they are blitzing to get to the quarterback. And be honest with you, sometimes they don't even need to do that because TJ Watt be in the backfield instantaneously. I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of this game, but what I did hear and read and see in a lot of these highlights, apparently TJ Watt knows the snap counts for the Browns. He
Yeah, he
knows what
was.
the snap calls are.
Yeah, he was getting off of that line pretty damn quickly. And this one for me, Ashton, Baker Mayfield came in here saying, "Mama didn't raise no wuss." Well, Mama didn't also raise somebody with a little common sense. I don't think he should have played. It looked like every time he got hit, he was wincing or just struggling to say the least. Some of his throws, I mean, he's not the best or most accurate passer, anyways, and some of his throws were just they were atrocious. Um,
Yeah, man, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that, right? Like there's other factors that go into it. I know everybody's been getting cool on the hype when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. doing really well in the trick plays and like the unique ways they've been getting him the ball. But fact of the matter is, like we got to remember what this team is centered around, and they had their worst offensive line performance in the entire season. It is no
mhm.
surprise that they had it versus one of the most talented defensive lines in front seven in the NFL. Um, but you gotta move on from this, man. The Browns, I mean, they're still 4-2, bro. Like you can, and I get it. They're probably out of contention for the playoff spot. They're out of contention for winning the AFC North. But in 4 games, we could be saying the exact opposite for a couple of other teams, right? But the Browns, as of now, the Steelers and the Ravens,
Yep.
top two teams in the AFC North, and the Browns are third.
Yeah, here's the
So,
thing. For me, the Browns are closer to the Steelers. Well, actually, they didn't even really beat the Bengals. They only beat the Bengals. I was gonna say they're closer to the Steelers and Ravens than they are the Bengals in the AFC North, but
which
I
is
might be
what
wrong on that.
Denzel Ward believes that, by the way.
Yeah, like, but they only beat the Bengals by 5. But the 2 losses they have so far this season are both to AFC North opponents. They lost to the Ravens 38-6, Ashton, and then they lose to the Steelers 38-7. So there is obviously, I mean, the other thing we got to remember, no Nick Chubb, and their rushing attack has fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, that's what when you become a one dimensional team and everybody knows what your thing is, you can only go so far, right?
Yeah,
And I get it. The run game becomes massively important when it comes playoff time, but we are a long, long way away from talking about the playoffs.
yeah,
Other thing to point out here, I know it makes almost no sense, but the Browns lead the NFL in takeaways, like forced turnovers. Like
really,
they have 13 and everybody else has like 12 or 10.
huh?
So
Interesting.
yeah, no. Shout out to the Browns defense, man.
Yeah,
And that's doing it without Grant Delpit, right? Like Grant is out for the season. So um maybe they're getting better. By the way, David Njoku apparently still wants to trade. So good luck with that, buddy.
yeah.
He basically lost his job to Austin Hooper, who blocks and catches the ball. What a concept.
Are we?
Kids out there.
Or go ahead.
I was gonna say all the young tight ends out there learn how to block. It's not that
Yeah,
hard. It's
exactly.
literally just getting into a fist fight with somebody else, except without the punches. So
Do you
I know it's hard in the NFL, but yeah, go ahead.
do you want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that being Juju Smith-Schuster?
So never really was like super focused on him or anything like that, but the lineage moves on, man. Like everybody gets their 1 year in the sun, right? Like Deontay Johnson kind of blew up last year. Juju Smith-Schuster blew up the year before that, and now it's Chase Claypool's time to shine. So, but yeah, Juju's probably getting a lot of coverages in terms of like what spacing he's actually getting,
Hmm.
but yeah, man, I don't know what the deal is. There's also something to be said about who's throwing them the football. We don't want to talk about that. I don't think people don't want to talk about that. This could be so when it comes to the playoffs and everything, Martin. This is my theory, and I'll say this about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well when we get there. This could be the Peyton Manning year
Mm.
for
For
the
Ben
Peyton Manning year.
Roethlisberger?
Yeah, for Ben Roethlisberger, where he won the Super Bowl based off the greatness of his defense, not necessarily the greatness of his offense, right?
Yeah,
They had one of the most prolific defenses in the history of the NFL, and he was able to go to the Super Bowl and win the MVP and all that kind of shit, which he probably shouldn't have. They should have gave it to somebody on the defense because they did their damn thing versus the Carolina Panthers. But yeah, this could be his year. Same thing for Tom Brady. This could be the Peyton Manning year outside of like. I know Tom Brady actually fits it more because he's moved to another team,
yeah.
but Ben Roethlisberger, this could be it, man. Like he's still out there, he's still functional, he's still doing Big Ben things. Deep ball accuracy is not there. And maybe as time goes on, what really will happen is he'll get more comfortable with Juju and everybody else. And because let's be honest, like their wide receiver group is
It's good.
constantly changing. Like
I
it's
mean, yeah,
constantly changing. Yeah. So yeah, it's different. And maybe as time goes on, Juju will get more involved with the offense. But at the end of the day, man, all you can really do is I mean, all you can really do is take into account that Ben Roethlisberger is not the guy that he used to be. So it doesn't necessarily make it's not an indictment on Juju Smith Schuster.
it's just, I mean, he's just not really getting. I mean, the most targets he's had so far this season is 8. Um, this past week though against Cleveland, 4 targets, 2 catches for 6 yards. It's like it's just something's not right there. Like
Clayton Kershaw just gave up a homer.
good, but there's just something not right there with Juju, and obviously with Chase Claypool and James Washington, you kind of got to feed the hot hand, right? And Chase Claypool, what do they list him as? Because when I see him standing there getting, and the announcer, whoever was announcing the Steelers Browns game, even pointed this out. Like, so he's listed at 6'4", right?
Yeah.
He looks bigger than 6'4". Like he looks almost like DK Metcalf and Megatron size. Like, and for this guy to have fallen all the way to the back end of the second round, like mid second round, like did every like obviously all 32 teams or 32 teams in the or 31 since the
No,
Steelers
it's
drafted him, but
32.
they
The
miss.
Steelers passed on him
Yeah,
multiple
they
times too.
like is this guy just playing with a chip on his shoulder, or like you said, with people maybe focusing on Juju a little bit, is he?
Here we go with the chip on his shoulder. Like, oh my gosh,
It's one of the
this
good old
guy.
cliches, but is this like you just mentioned? Defenses might be leaning a little bit more towards Juju. Do defenses need to start leaning a little bit more towards Chase? Like we can talk about the Eagles and how they blew coverage on like 3 of his touchdowns, but I mean, there's got to be something happening to where he is just wide the fuck open and
Yeah,
Juju Smith-Schuster's not.
and of course, man, like and of course, like I said before, it doesn't necessarily mean that Juju's not open. Maybe Chase is just more open.
Yeah,
Like and of course, like Deontay Johnson, a guy who's been proven to be a legitimate threat when he gets the opportunity to get the ball. Same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster. It does not help that they also have a talented running back in James Conner, who is healthy as of right now, and that's another guy who's got to touch the ball. And sometimes dudes get left behind when there's so many good guys on the field because it makes them look bad when in actuality they're playing their role in the offense. So they're out there running their routes as hard as they can, and maybe they are getting separation. Ben's not looking at it. So we'll find out what that is. I'm sure somebody will say something about it because wide receivers can only hold in their frustration for so long before.
yep.
And if you don't know, Juju is also super popular off the field. He's got, I think it's like 1.1 million Instagram followers. His dog has got like 500,000 Instagram followers.
He
He's
actually,
got a shit ton of stuff on
yep.
YouTube that he makes money off
He
of.
streams on Twitch.
Streams on Twitch. He's
He's
got all kinds of his Twitter. He's got a deal with Me Undies right now that's just for him, not because he's a Steelers guy, but because of his like both NFL player and internet persona as a human being. So yeah,
he also just started like his own esports franchise. Did you see that story?
no, I did not. That's pretty
Yeah, he
impressive
he's
though.
starting his own like esports brand, which I mean, sign me the fuck up. Ashton, you got anything else to say on the Steelers absolutely stomping the Browns?
Nah, man, I'm surprised we've talked about in past years. No, but like the important thing to take away from this is the first time that this game has mattered in a decade,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So that's pretty impressive for the Browns in terms of what they've been able to do. They're probably counting the seconds until Nick Chubb is able to play again.
Hold on, my cat is. No, stop. Ah, hold on.
So yeah, we move on
Ah,
here.
got it. Sorry, she was eating
Martin's
something
dealing
she
with the
was.
cat.
She
Martin's
wasn't.
dealing with the cat. The Bears dealt with the cat. The Panthers.
Nice one.
The Bears are 5-1. The Panthers are 3-3 as of now. The Bears came off with a 23-16 victory here. And the thing I took away from it, as I've been suspecting for the past couple of weeks, the Bears are in contention for the number one offense in the NFL, dude. Number one defense in the NFL. They're playing on a prolific type level. And
Yeah.
it's everyone. The corners are covering it like so. This is what I have to say. They have pressure and coverage on their side. Two of the greatest weapons that a defense can have against offense, especially in the age of the NFL. And they, for all the pressure that they get on quarterbacks, for all the great coverage you see from those DBs, they are 26th in the NFL in number of blitzes. They are getting pressure with just the guys up front, the four that are up front. And Akeem Hicks' name keeps coming up over and over again. And his season was shortened just a year ago, but man, I love to see a good defense, man. I really do. But they were able to pull off this win with 4 turnovers. They had a forced fumble from the Panthers on the 30-yard line. They got an interception on the Panthers' 10-yard line, and they got a Panthers interception on the 1-yard line, which Martin means they were just giving the offense layups,
Yeah.
and they were able to get 23 points out of that.
Yeah, that's what's most frustrating about the Bears. They are, I mean, every year we have that one team that is like the reincarnation of the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, where Trent Dilfer took his team and won a Super Bowl, even though it was the defense that won them all their games and everything. Like, it is so frustrating to watch, especially as you and I have kind of jumped on the Carolina bandwagon the past couple of weeks, and then to see them run into this, and I mean, it was just. I, it was just frustrating, dude. So
This is one of
frustrating.
those this is one of those games where it seemed like it was close and it actually wasn't. Although the final drive for the Carolina Panthers was for the win in this game. Their last offensive drive was for the win. Teddy Bridgewater threw his second interception of the game, and it pretty much it killed any hope that they had of actually getting the comeback in this one. But once again, every game that they've lost, even the games that they've lost, they've been in it, which is something that the Panthers, off of last year, we'll talk about a guy from their team last year. They're still in a better place than they were a year ago, man. They're 3-3 right now. They could very easily be winless, 1 win, 2 wins. They're 3-3, and they're playing like legit competition, right? Like that's the important thing to take out of this. I know they took a bad loss to the Falcons last week, but that may have been due to some external stuff with Dan Quinn leaving and everything like that. And everybody gets the head coach firing bump in the NFL when it's all said and done. But nonetheless, the Bears defense, man, on a whole nother level, to the point where Nick Foles can throw for under 200 yards, and their starting running back David Montgomery could rush for under 70 yards, and them still win in pretty smothering fashion.
Because it wasn't just game.
It was like Teddy Bridgewater got sacked the most times. He had his worst completion percentage, lowest amount of points scored by the Panthers this year, and it was a one possession game.
Yep.
And how long can you dance the tightrope until it snaps?
Here's the thing with this game, Ashton. The Teddy Bridgewater haters are getting. This is their game where they're like, see, this is what I'm talking about. He's not very good because he can't play against one of the best defenses in the league. Like this is, I mean, no touchdowns, couple of interceptions, couple of sacks. Like not a good game by Teddy. He'll probably be the first to admit he didn't have his greatest game. And damn, does it suck when you and I have been praising them the past couple of weeks.
We finally went all in on them, and of course we get burned that week. And I was like, yep, totally expected this. The consistency is the number one thing that separates good NFL teams and great NFL teams and bad NFL teams. Consistency across the board is something that always affects every team in the NFL, and it's a big problem for even the shitty teams. But anyway.
Still
Martin,
waiting for Run CMC to come back.
Yeah,
so, we'll see how they look when they get back.
They're also getting a lot of Robbie Anderson, who's second in the league in receiving yards. Also, DJ Moore's been playing really well this season. So, yeah. You got anything else, man?
No, let's move on to the Packers and Buccaneers. This one was billed as America's Game of the Week, and it kind of turned into a little bit of a blowout towards the end. Like Ashton mentioned earlier in the show, if
America was the Packers and COVID was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then in fact it was America's Game of the Year. Got ahead there for a second.
Yeah.
Didn't recognize what the real threat was, and then an avalanche came through, and every single turn, it seemed like after they scored those 10 points, the Packers couldn't do anything right, man.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was all good until it wasn't. It really was.
Yeah. So you said you had a theory on this game. Do you want to get into that theory right now, or?
So yeah, I'll talk. I'll go through my breakdown of this game, and then we'll get to the theory at the end. I kind of hinted at it earlier. I said I didn't believe the Bucs offense could go throw for throw with the Packers, right? Mm-hmm. I said that on Thursday. The Bucs defense got them 14 points. They got a pick six, and then they took the second interception back down to the 2-yard line, which, of course, the offense ran in. But in actuality, we know what that was. That was basically a layup for a decent offense, an average offense in the NFL, and they're above average. We know that. They had a pick six and an interception, got it to the 2-yard line. That's 14 out of their 38 points. Everything else after that, the Bucs. Most important thing to take out of this: the Bucs defense doubled the amount of pressure that Aaron Rodgers experienced in any game he played this season.
Mhm.
Doubled it. Doubled it from 21 to 46% or 41% in this game. That is insane. It was, and you could tell he wasn't accustomed to just how quickly they were getting to him. And he spent most of the game picking himself up off the ground. Adams was the only receiver that Rodgers had time to see, or he was the only one that Rodgers was looking at. Because when it was all said and done, he had 10 targets, second most targeted guys on the team combined together. They were tied for 5. So it was Robert Tonyan, the tight end, and Aaron Jones. And if you don't know anything about NFL offenses, those are the two closest guys at typically any point on the field. The tight end, who is the safety blanket for even rookie quarterbacks,
Yeah.
safety blanket for a quarterback, because typically he's the closest to the line of scrimmage. Same thing for running backs. They're running swing routes. They're not running like deep streak routes down the field or anything like that. They combined together had as many targets as Davante Adams did in that game. They came out there dependent upon Davante Adams to go out there and get wins on the line of scrimmage. If you saw the 2 interceptions, one of them was an attempted target towards Davante. By the way, stop throwing out routes. One of them was an attempted target to Davante Adams on an out route to get a first down. It was undercut and ran back for a touchdown. The other one was a pass over the middle, which I mean, it looked like it was a deep slant or maybe a seam run from Davante Adams, but he bobbled the ball and it was picked up and it was caught by the secondary of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they ran it back to the second 2-yard line. That being said, it's hard to it was a type of game where the Buccaneers defense was so good that they made the Packers one-dimensional, Martin.
Yeah.
They made them a one-dimensional team. Aaron Jones didn't have a spectacular day, right? Of course. So that kind of reduced the value of the run game. They knew he was only going to be looking at Davante Adams because the other guys can't get separation. They've been saying that for the past 3 years for the Green Bay Packers. The same group of guys cannot get separation. The guy who could get separation, who helped them in that win versus the Saints, Allen Lazard, out for the season. That was a bad game from the Green Bay Packers off the fact of something that we've been talking about for years. They do not have a wide receiver core. They have Davante Adams. They have a couple of guys who can help out here or there. That you trying to count a tight end as a part of the receiver core production, not going to get you. It can help you mentally, right? To be like, oh, he's a tight end. He catches passes just like a slot receiver. That's not going to help you in actuality when you have an entire position of one group of players on your team, and you can only depend upon one of them to show up
Yeah.
consistently throughout the course of a game. You can say the same thing about Aaron Jones. He's a dual threat running back. That's stupid. There are multiple. Anyway, it's just there was so much of this game. They made them into a one-dimensional team. And then of course it got to a point where it was too many goddamn points on the board. They had to depend upon Aaron Rodgers to go out there and win them the game. And once again, what does Aaron Rodgers have to do, Martin? Depend upon the 2 closest guys to the line of scrimmage and the 1 wide receiver down the field. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
The theory that I had on this one pertains to the Buccaneers, though.
Does it have to do with like their defense possibly is one of the best, if not the best defense in the NFL? Yeah, they lost to the Bears and Saints already this season,
But
but
if you saw the defensive game that they played against the Bears, which by the way, that Thursday night football game is getting more and more interesting the further we get away from it, because it was indicative of two of the best defenses in the NFL. And if you go back and look at what it took for the teams to score in that game, you understand exactly why it was such a low scoring game. But yeah, that's what my point was. I was like, this is Tom Brady's Peyton Manning year when he was with the Broncos. This is it. This is the year. It just is a question of whether or not they can ride that to. They got everything in place. They got a decent offensive line, slightly above average offensive line if you look at the numbers. But they have a decent offensive line, one of the best running backs in the NFL, at least a top 15 running back in the NFL, right? They have 2 freak ass receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. They have a tight end that they kind of can depend upon now, maybe because he's the focal point. Maybe because there's only 2 tight ends they can really focus on. Rob Gronkowski is kind of getting back into form.
He had a nice game. Yeah,
he had a nice game for the first time in 6 weeks, and maybe this is him catching his stride. But at the end of the day, all the pieces are there, and they have one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in the NFL. And just like we all suspected at the beginning of the season, despite what's been the up and down situation, and maybe that's another thing they got to work on, the consistency of play across the board for everybody, right? But they are still, I mean, they got to be in people's top 5 teams eligible for the Super Bowl. They have to. Like, that's what it comes down to. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, Ashton, we said the Buccaneers are going to kind of be that slow train out of the gate. Tom Brady, he's a perfectionist. He's got to learn as it goes. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be fucking all roses out of the gate. He has to learn who he can trust, who he goes to on certain plays, all of that. And it's starting to get more and more like that. He knows who to go to on third downs now. He knows who his running back is going to be just about every drive now, or every play almost, since Ronald Jones, just like you mentioned in the rep watch, just took over the job a couple weeks ago and hasn't really looked back. Um, the wide receiver core, Mike Evans, again, not the best game for him, but they didn't really need it. It was Gronkowski, Chris Godwin had a decent game. They had a rookie, Tyler Johnson. He got his first touchdown. It'll be interesting to see if he gets added, or like how much he gets added. He only had the one catch, but when you get a touchdown catch from Tom Brady, people are automatically gonna draw some eyes to you. You and I on Thursday when we were breaking down this game, and even a couple weeks ago, we didn't know how good the Green Bay Packers were. They finally played somebody good on their schedule. This is, I believe, the first or second team they've played all season with a winning record, and they come out and basically shit the bed. I mean, David Bakhtiari went out, but you can't blame that entire loss on a left tackle being out. And then the pick six that A Rod threw, uh, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking throwing that route. There's it was just one of those like Tom Brady with his not knowing it was fourth down moment a week ago. This was one of that moment for Aaron Rodgers. Like, come on, bro, you can't be throwing that you can't be throwing that easily. I mean, he almost stared down. Was it Devontae Adams he was throwing to? I believe on it.
Yeah,
He just
yeah.
stared it down. Didn't even look off the safety. Didn't even pretend like it was going anywhere else. And yeah, it cost them. And the Packers didn't look too good in the game. I mean, yeah, they got that early 10-0 lead, but I mean, from that moment on, from start of the second quarter until the end, they just didn't look very good.
Life be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Life comes at you fast.
Yep.
Life comes at you fast, man. But yeah, that's all I got to say on that one, man. You guys
Same.
saw the game. A lot of you guys saw the game. If you didn't, it was not much to see other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defenses on the juice, man.
Well,
They are
Ashton, if you're
pumped.
yeah, if you were watching football on Sunday, it was on Sunday afternoon, like the late games. It was either the Buccaneers, Packers, or the Jets, Dolphins. I mean,
And you got to see the greatness of Ryan Fitzmagic once again,
one
ladies and
one
gentlemen.
final time as we get to
Enjoy
his
the
game.
show. Enjoy the show. He took his bow, Martin. He took
Yeah,
his
it was
curtain
his
call, his
curtain
bow,
call exactly.
and now the curtains have fallen down. The magic show is over. Everybody,
Yeah, it's the
sad to say.
exit
Hopefully,
stage
it's not the
left.
last time we see Ryan Fitzpatrick,
No,
bro. It's
because the
always a
the Dallas Cowboys are about to trade for Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're hearing it here first. We're gonna
oh,
clip
hey,
this.
if that hey, guess what? The NFC East is a wrap if Ryan Fitzpatrick gets up
Bruh,
in there. He
me,
is not playing around, bro.
Mina said it best on Twitter earlier. If Ryan Fitzpatrick goes to the NFC, the Cowboys, just lock it up. Let them get the home playoff game and see how
Right.
they do. The next game, however, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to the Dolphins here in a little bit. But the next game we have on the schedule, or we want to talk about Ashton really quickly, or not really quickly. We can talk a little bit about it. The Chiefs 26, the Bills 17. You and I continue to be correct on Josh Allen and the Bills. They are more the Phils than the Bills because they're frauds. The Chiefs, they came out. They said, "All right, Buffalo, you want to play two deep safeties? You want to not give us anything over the top? We'll just run the ball down your fucking throat. We got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We got Le'Veon Bell coming back. We got practice for the running. It was, I mean, they pounded the rock. The most rushing attempts in an Andy Reid since Andy Reid took over in Kansas City. The most rushing yards since Andy Reid took over for Kansas City. They
Off the
said,
top rope.
they literally said like, all right, you guys think you're good and can stop our passing attack? Look what we got in the fucking. Look what else we can do. And Patrick Mahomes, I mean, this was just one of those games. The rain coming down, he still threw the ball beautifully. The two touchdowns he threw to Travis Kelsey were on point. Um, Clyde Edwards-Helaire said, "Oh, you want Le'Veon Bell? I'll show you what I can do." The little MJ Maurice Jones-Drew wannabe comes out there and actually played better against the Bills than he did the Texans, and so that's saying something about the Bills defense. If the Texans aren't the worst defense that they played, the Bills. I mean, they got to start being worried at some point, right? That's
Yeah, and we mentioned this before, man. The defense has fallen off significantly. So now, when they go into games for the first time in like 5 years, they have to depend upon their offense to be at its absolute peak every single time that they go out there on the field. And they started off pretty well, right? They got that early touchdown to Stephon Diggs with the toe drag swag, which by the way, Stephon Diggs third in the NFL in receiving yards. So, pretty nice change of scenery for him. But at the heart of it all, man, now there's more pressure on Josh Allen than there's ever been. And of course, he went up against one of the best teams in the NFL. And for whatever you have to say about Kansas City only scoring 26 points versus that Bills team, they went out there and got the win. There's nothing really much else to say about that one, man. It
yeah,
was that simple. They literally ran through them.
yeah. They were just like, look, the weather's bad. You guys are literally. I mean, they showed the all 22 at one point where the Bills defense is literally like 25, 30 yards from the line of scrimmage just so that they didn't get beat by Tyreek Hill and all the
Right.
other fucking speedsters that the Chiefs have. And but now, Ashton, 2 weeks in a row, Titans and Chiefs, their offense has scored 16 points and 17 points. The Houston Texans scored more against the Tennessee Titans than this vaunted Buffalo Bills offense did, led by the second coming of Jesus Christ, Josh Allen. Um, I, I'll say it again. I'm not. I don't think Josh Allen's that good. He just proved he can't outperform. I mean, I'm not going to say outperform Patrick Mahomes, so he couldn't even perform in the rain. I mean, some of his passes, they were. It looked like Andy Dalton out there, dude. It was that bad.
And this game one of the World Series, 4-1 right now, bottom of the fifth. The Dodgers tuning them up. Dodgers got four dudes on base in this inning alone, and it looks like it's finally popping off for them. So they might be able to run away with this. And it looks like the Rays are about to pull their starter, Glasgow.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is. Glass now is gone. So
he's gone.
other stuff, we move on here. We can sit here and talk about the Bills until we're blue in the face. But
Yeah, they're. I think uh, we've Ash and I have had a couple of good calls so far this year. The Bills being a little overrated is one of them. They finally run into a couple of. I mean, I don't count the Rams win. That was a bullshit pass interference. But they beat the Jets, Dolphins, Raiders, and then have lost to the Titans and Chiefs. So
that's
it,
why I get so mad when people question whether or not I watch football.
yeah,
Um,
we know what.
hey,
Sometimes we know what we're talking. Like sometimes
I
we'll
mean, we're
be
not. I mean, like we're like legit looking at like common sense here, and a
yeah
lot of people are trying to get. I mean, guys, we don't have access to like all the stats and
exactly.
information that other teams have, and we can like use the resources that we have available to understand what other teams are doing and where they really stand off. So I would
Yeah.
imagine that other people are able to do it too. I have that much faith in you, just like I have faith that you should download the Thrive Fantasy app and use promo code BrokeBoy and get $20 free if you put $20 in
See
on
it
your
down
initial
here at the
deposit
bottom.
and lay some bets down. Lay some bets down. Do your thing. They have esports as well, not just all the major sports in
Yep.
America. They have esports to go along with it. They even have golf mixed in there a little bit. So you check that out if you're one of those guys. You're
Yeah.
one of
Make
those
sure to
weird sports fans who, for some reason, has chosen golf as your primary sport.
yeah. Make sure to use code BrokeBoy when you sign up. Put $20 down, you get $20 right back. Ashton, you bring up esports real quick. I just want to go on a minor tangent. Your boy in his pick'ems right now on just ESPN alone, top 100. Like I am, where I
Oh,
had it in my head. Hold
he's
on.
got something. He's got something. I don't know what it is, but
Like
it's
I basically I am absolutely fucking killing it when it comes to the okay, here it is, the World Championships for League of Legends. So out of every, I don't know, it doesn't tell me how many people have actually done one. I am currently number 11 out of everybody that has done it. I am fucking killing it. I'm in the top 99.9 percentile. I've got 220 points. Your boy has been absolutely dominating it. And yeah, I just wanted
get
since you
that
brought
money
up
for those
esports
picks,
on
man.
you brought up esports on Thrive Fantasy. I got to give myself a little pat on the back when I'm number 11 in the world. I wish I could see just how many people actually signed up. I could see like groups and like all that. Like I'm number 2 in the ESPN group that I'm in. But yeah, just a quick little pat on my back there. That and here the funniest thing about it, Ashton, I click on like the leaderboard. The name of the person in first place right now Texans for the win.
He knows what's up. He knows what's up.
Yeah, that's my quick esports brag as we take a little break here. We got 8 games left to talk about, Ashton. The next one, the most frustrating game for, or not the most frustrating, but I just can't believe they won only kicking field goals. The Broncos improved to 2-3. They ruined their draft position, and they also make the Patriots 2-3 at the same time, 18-12. This one, New England, for me, just almost looked a little rusty.
Yeah, so we mentioned this on Thursday as well, man. We talked about this and it actually came to fruition, which was the weird part. They do customized game plans for every single opponent that they go up against. So them missing multiple days of practice, which is what happened without their starting quarterback out there and everything, was a huge blow to them. They even versus the Denver Broncos, we talked about the talent differential. The talent of the offense of the New England Patriots is significantly lower than the talent of the defense of the Denver Broncos, and it showed in that game, man. They're still waiting on some players to emerge, and at this point, in 6 weeks into the season, man, like, are they going to?
Mm.
Are other players on offense besides Julian Edelman and maybe Sonny Michelle every once in a while, James White and Rex Burkhead going to go out here and handle business, man? They got to get some other offensive players out there. Defense has been look. I mean, that's 18 points. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's 18 points. All those were field goals. Defense was doing their job.
Yep.
Defense was doing their thing. It took multiple 50-yard field goals for Brandon McManus to get those points on the board. So it's one of those things where it's difficult to just sit here and be like, oh man, the Patriots are just absolutely done, because they've shown that they have the ability, like they have the ability on one side of the ball. They're just waiting for the other one to catch up. And if it comes down to like they just need to run the ball more, they just need to run the ball more. And I'm sure everybody's been paying attention to what the Denver Broncos were able to pull off, what the Kansas City Chiefs had to do to go out there and beat the New England Patriots. That's key information, especially those all 22s. When you look at what Cam Newton and their run formations are, whether they have some tells built in there, because at the end of the day, they still got to get a lot of beef. They got to get a lot of beef out there to go
Mm-hmm.
move those dudes out of the way. And if you can get more beef to hit their beef, then you get a hamburger, right? No,
Yeah,
that's not how that works.
something
Anyway,
something like that.
oh yeah, I was gonna mention that Brandon McManus was gonna be the nuke, and then he sent out that soft ass tweet. So
Yeah,
no
what
no
is
nuke
that, bro?
status for
Come on.
him. So
Yeah. So for me, Ashton, N'Keal Harry might be this year's
in
example.
N'Keal Harry, Martin. That's how
What?
they say his name. His name is N'Keal Harry. I know it sounds
Oh,
weird. So if you don't know, N'Keal Harry is a wide receiver for the New England Patriots, and his name is spelled in apostrophe K.
oh, I've always said N'Keal.
Yeah, it's N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal.
It's weird.
Okay.
It's weird.
Anyways, he is probably this year's prime example of why you shouldn't buy into the preseason reporters and all like the like the preseason, like this wide receiver is clicking with his quarterback in
Right.
like in August because it's I mean he's hasn't had a 100-yard game yet. He's got one touchdown. Only one game so far. He's seen multiple or double-digit targets. And yeah, N'Keal Harry, I need you to wake up, buddy. Not only do I have you on the bench in a couple of my fantasy leagues, I just bought into the hype, I guess.
So if you're listening at home, the thing with N'Keal Harry is that he's got the size and everything like that. His biggest issue is that he doesn't get separation.
Yep.
So everything that he tries to catch is a contested catch.
Yeah,
So
it's just
that's what it is.
unfortunate. It's one of those things where it's like you can't buy into the stock of what the New England Patriots beat writer is putting out there because I mean, obviously he
Well,
wants people.
you have to also take into the fact that they believe everything that the Patriots do is going to work, which
Yeah.
is a which is a logical place to be, considering everything that they've done the last decade, right?
Yep.
So at some point, it's hard to have an objective view on a non-biased view on what the team is up to, what the team is doing, and then on top of that, like based off of like the information they actually get out of the team, which is not very much because of one Cam Newton who speaks in riddles as if he's a supervillain, and then Bill Belichick who tries to say as few words as possible. It's like a personal game of his to say as few words as possible to teams and to say it as low as possible and try and sound as close to a bag of rocks being jingled around in a bag when he speaks into a microphone. So like you have to take all that into a factor in terms of like how the team is presented to people. And on top of that, like Boston fans be crazy, man. You talk shit about their team, they come
They
find
go,
you.
yeah, they come hunting. I don't really have anything to say about the Broncos in this game except what I said when I first introduced the game. Stop winning. You need the best draft pick possible for Drew Luck to be successful in the coming years. Stop winning games. Next on the schedule, Ashton, this one, we mentioned it off the top. We both got this one wrong in our pick'em because, or did you get this one right? I definitely got this one
No,
wrong.
I got it wrong. I can
The
tell you why though.
Yeah, the 49ers came out here. Like I really don't know what to say. They beat the Rams 24-16. The
Oh, I can
Rams
tell you exactly what happened.
the Rams for some reason had a stinker when they shouldn't have. The 49ers are now 3-3. They're making it harder for the Arizona Cardinals to win the NFC West. I think every team in the NFC West right now has a above 500 or 500 or greater record because we've got the Seahawks at 5-0. You've got the Cardinals at 4-2, the Rams at
That's
four and
right.
two, and the
But you heard
49ers
that?
at 3-3.
You
Like
guys
it,
heard that, right? He just tried to mosey on past it. Martin was just like, the Rams are getting in the way of the Cardinals
they both they,
and
they
in
both
their
are.
true destiny. They're the Rams are in the Cardinals' way. That's how that statement goes.
Yep.
Anyway, so Martin, on this one, final score is 24-16. The game actually wasn't as close as it looked like it was.
No.
But the other thing to take out of this, in homage to Pulp Fiction, I will say this: look at the big brain on Kyle. Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, who's worked with some pretty bad quarterbacks in his time in the NFL, one of those being Matt Schaub. If you're a Texans fan, you know that very well.
Hey,
He
Matt
got Matt
Schaub was
Schaub
all
to be
right
the
for
number
like a
one
season.
quarter. He got Matt Schaub to the point where the Texans were the number one offense in the NFL. He had people legit considering that the Texans are one of the deadliest teams in the NFL when he was here as an offensive coordinator. Worked with Robert Griffin III, despite all the other things that went on with Robert Griffin's life and the team that he was on and everything like that. Went to the Atlanta Falcons, turned Matt Ryan into, well, a joke to a certain degree, because let's be honest, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator and Matt Ryan took all the heat for it. But 28 got him to the point where they went to the Super Bowl, 28-3. 3 years into his time here with the San Francisco 49ers, he was able to find a way to get the 49ers back to the Super Bowl, where they subsequently lost to one of the most prolific offenses that we've seen in a while, led by the best quarterback in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes. Sorry. I know his mom's out here listening to our podcast. Patrick Mahomes. But Kyle, another masterpiece. Mixing it up, a lot of lights, flashing lights, most importantly, flashing lights, smoke machines everywhere. Had all the hot chicks wooing and screaming his name and everything like that. Made Jimmy Garoppolo look like a rock star. Went out here, almost threw for 300 yards.
Party like a rock, party like a rock. Sorry.
Here's a free one, guys. Here's a free one. Let me peep you the game real quick. Jimmy Garoppolo's longest throw this entire game via air yards was 26 yards. He leads the San Francisco 49ers do in yards after the catch. Their team is the definition of what people say when they're talking about playmakers. Jimmy Garoppolo, Martin, do you have the stats in front of you right now?
Like the box score or what?
Yeah, the box score. How many passing yards?
268.
268.
And 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks.
You want to know why he had no touchdowns?
Or no interceptions?
You want to know why? I'm sorry, why he had no interceptions?
Go for it.
It's hard to intercept the ball 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Jimmy Garoppolo had 46 air yards in this game.
Oh my God! So that's
he threw 46 yards in the air. That's how far the ball traveled in front of the line of scrimmage. 46 yards the entire game.
So they're just running. They were doing the Colt McCoy special, just running slants.
They ran multiple reverses. They ran screenplays. They ran misdirection. They ran pocket empty and bootlegs, nakeds, and all that kind of stuff like that. That's what they did that entire game. And the reason it worked is because they were able to get a fast person out in space with the offensive line that was able to get up the field. And on top of that, the splits between the O linemen were fucking huge. If you tried to shoot the gap, you were already 5 yards behind Deebo Samuels, because he is faster than any defensive lineman you have. He's faster than almost every linebacker in the NFL, I would argue. Brandon Ayuk had a couple of screenplays that went his way that he broke for extra yards. George Kittle had actually, let me read this off so I can give you guys a really good grasp of what the hell that I'm talking about. They hustled the shit out of this game, Martin. George Kittle had 109 receiving yards. 72 of them were yards after the catch. Debo
Jesus.
Samuels had 90, I'm sorry, he had 66 total yards. 96 came after the catch because it included the yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Wait,
Brandon
he
Ayuk,
had 30 yards? Oh my
yes,
God.
11 14 of his 11 yards came from after yards after contact. Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers mathematically tricked the fuck out of anybody who watched that box score
Yeah,
because that first drive that they had, he had negative 20 air yards because no pass went past the line of scrimmage.
that's crazy.
They went 60 yards on the drive and zero passes went past the line of scrimmage, and he went 4 for 4 on completions.
Wow. That's
That
actually
is
impressive. Like
that's
that's
Kyle Shanahan spamming the hell out of that is what play that's what they mean when they talk about playmakers. Brandon Ayuk, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuels, George Kittle. When they had Raheem Mostert running, still able to get yards at the field. Jared McKinnon. They have everything that they need to make a shit ass quarterback look amazing.
yeah.
And I'm not saying Jimmy Garoppolo is a bad quarterback. What I will say is though, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably 100% still hurt, Martin,
Hmm.
and they figured out a way to get him out in to get his best players out in space versus and get them one most importantly keep Aaron Donald away from Jimmy Garoppolo, and then on top of that figure out ways to make the defensive line hesitate, to make linebackers hesitate when the ball gets snapped, and figuring out who's going to run the ball. It is amazing. If you think it's amazing when Cam Newton has the ball out in front of him and he's got when he had Christian McCaffrey to his side and you had no idea who was about to run you over or run past you, imagine if you have to think about the running back, your number one wide receiver, and your number two wide receiver possibly running the ball.
Hmm.
That is chaos. And the 49ers live for it.
Yeah, I think we finally learned the Rams are going to beat the bad teams that they play this year, and when they get a team, I mean, the 49ers, I think we could call them average, not even that good, especially with all the injuries. But
Average might be generous. They lost
yeah,
by multiple touchdowns to the Dolphins.
yeah, exactly. So like, I don't know what I really don't know what to make of that offensive
The,
performance. That
and
was it.
honestly, the 49ers, man, remember this, Martin. 49ers have a massive amount of injuries that are hampering them.
Yeah.
Massive amount of injuries that are hampering them. They
Speak.
that
Good.
doesn't take away from that. And remember, their whole offense changed when Debo came back. Their whole offense changed when Brandon started having more opportunities because Debo came back. That's a
Yep.
big change and a big difference for them. They they have multiple guys who are threats, even though they don't have a quarterback that they trust to throw the ball deep down the field.
You mentioned injuries a second ago, Ashton. This is the part of the show where we got to give a little standing ovation to Jason Verrett, the cornerback for the
Yeah,
San
man,
Francisco 49ers.
locked it
If he
down.
if he isn't like an epitome of like battling through injury after season ending like what did he have, 3 season ending injuries with the Chargers when he was playing for them, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah.
And now he's fought through them all. I think it was a torn ACL, like an Achilles at one point. I can't remember all of his injuries he had off the top of my head, but the fact that he has fought back, and now I don't know if you saw this, Ashton. He's actually the like best or like highest rated cornerback in the NFL since he came back. Four
Yeah.
games in, targeted twice. Wait, where is it? So Pro Football Focus says he's been targeted 11 times in 4 games, given up 4 catches, 24 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pro Football Focus says that basically translates to an opposer passer rating 7.0, which is the lowest mark for any qualifying cornerback. The only other NFL quarterback is Kendall Fuller for Washington with at least 100 coverage snaps. He's at 8.7. And so just got to give a huge. Or wait, hold on. He actually also had it was an ankle injury last year that put him out for the season. So I mean, he just continues to fight back, and you can't miss him, guys. He's a dread-headed brother, and I love me some dreadheads. Ashton, you know me. If I could have an entire team full of dreadheads, it would be a fucking thing, and
Martin's fascination with dreads is interesting. I
it
think
makes
it's
the
just
player
out of
better.
respect for the. Yeah, Martin scientifically believes that having dreads makes you a better player, like in
It's
any sport,
100%
not
true.
just football. Just like any athletic endeavor, you are
Yep,
better from
100.
having dreads.
Yep, it is 100% true. You can't prove me
So,
wrong.
I would love to see the PFF breakdown of like success of players with dreads compared to other players in the NFL.
All right,
But
Ash.
yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
got
all I
anything
had to say
else?
on that one. Don't
Same.
like that was like one of the greatest illusions, and I saw it happening, and I was like, the first drive that they had, it was negative 20 air yards. And I was like, none of those passes went past the line of scrimmage. And the Rams defense is tired as hell because they literally having to run from sideline to sideline. And, and
Yeah.
it takes all of them to take down the guys that they're trying to work over, man. It takes them all to take down Brandon Ayuk. It takes them all to take down Debo Samuels. So yeah, I was like, what is going on here? And then lo and behold, at the end of the game, they kept doing it. And I'm like, man, dude, if there was God damn it, Kyle, you're a goddamn genius. Because if can y'all imagine what Kyle Shanahan would be with like a great quarterback or like an elite level quarterback, man?
Yeah.
Because it was just.
I mean, he
Anyway,
got
go
Jimmy
ahead, Martin.
Garoppolo to the Super Bowl, so I mean that just says enough. This next game, Ashton, there's literally only one thing that needs to be said. The Bengals 27, the Colts come back, beat them 31-27. They were another week, I believe. If you were watching Scott Hanson in the NFL Red Zone, every week so far this season, we've had a team come back from 16 points down and win. And the Colts did it, so we were now 6 straight weeks of having at least one team come back from 16 points. However, the Colts did it against the Bengals. The Colts, Ashton, are now 4-2. The Bengals 1-4-1 or 2-4, depending how you look on the Philadelphia tie that they had. Do you want to say it in unison? You want to say it on three, or the takeaway from this game?
Martin. My thing, I suggest this to you. We gotta stop telling these people, man. We've told we gotta stop helping these dudes out. Maybe y'all learn the hard way. Maybe y'all figure it out someday. Maybe y'all will understand. Maybe week 17 you'll finally understand what the Colts are.
Frauds.
Frauds.
100% frauds. Fraudulent. Every fucking. They're
And
not the number one.
if they not, and Martin, if they're not frauds, they got fraudulent behavior. like,
Like, the one of so I'm clicking on the Colts, right? The top article. Can Philip Rivers lead the Colts to the playoffs? Are you fucking kidding me?
spoiler alert. No,
Are you fucking kidding me? They
that's
had to come
free.
back down 16 against the Bengals, who just a week ago we were saying Colts had the best defense, and you're giving up 27 to the Bengals and going down early. You lose to the Browns, you lose to the Jaguars, you somehow beat the Bears. Like that's the most fucking weird thing about this
That was
entire.
when Mitch was still playing, so it took like
Exactly, like
17
it.
points to beat the Bears, right?
Or yeah, 19-11, and it, they beat the Vikings, they've beat the Jets, now they've beat the Bengals. Congrats. You had the fucking one of the worst schedules or easiest schedules, depending how you look at it, coming into the season. And congrats. You're 4-2 so far. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they're frauds. I can't stand watching them. I mean, that goes back to the Peyton Manning days of the Colts always beating the Texans. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, where the fuck are you? You're leading the team in fucking receiving yards with 242. Like,
I bet you T.Y. Hilton is very much wide open or open in certain places and being missed.
oh, for
There's
sure.
also something to be said about like Martin. Let me ask you this question: who's the second best wide receiver for the Colts?
I could, but dude,
Exactly.
uh,
Who's the tight end for the Colts?
was it not Zach Pascal?
Zach
Isn't he on the?
Pascal,
He's a. I couldn't tell you the Colts tight end. I mean, it used to be.
Jack Doyle, but it's
Yeah, I
not
was about to
anymore.
say, is it not Jack Doyle anymore?
No,
Oh, who is it?
I don't know. It's not Jack Doyle.
Hold
Jack
on, let
Doyle plays
me.
for the Jags, I thought.
No, Jack
Jack
Doyle's
Doyle.
still. No, he's still on the Colts. He had a
Who am I
touchdown.
talking about?
He had
Oh, Tyler. Sorry, I got to mix up
Tyler
with Tyler
Eifert.
Eifert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trey Burton is on the Indianapolis Colts now. He had a touchdown.
Former Cincinnati Bengal, I think,
Yeah.
right? Trey Burton.
I think yeah, he was also a quarterback at one point for Florida or wherever he went to school. But yeah, the Colts, congrats! He came back and beat the Bengals. The Bengals, same old Bengals, man. I mean, this is just a get through it year. You know what I'm saying, Ashton? Like the record for Joe Burrow and the rest of the Bengals this year doesn't like. If they had started, if they were 4-2 right now,
Better
congratulations.
try to holler at Jameis while the price is low.
Yeah, dude. Like Joe Mixon got in the end zone, 54 yards on the ground, got a couple of catches. AJ Green, we had an AJ Green sighting, 8 for 96 on 11 targets, still no touchdown.
That's how bad the Colts defense is. They let AJ Green get loose
Yeah,
on
T
him.
Higgins, he went off for over 100, no touchdown.
I've been trying to tell y'all, man. They didn't let him wear 85 for no reason.
Yeah, once the Bengals' offensive line gets sorted out, this team, I mean, they're still in the AFC North, of course, so they've got to get past the Steelers, Ravens, and then the Browns eventually. But
Oh, this was a matchup between 0 playoff teams, by the way.
oh yeah, there's no way the Colts make the playoffs. I mean, if the Colts make the playoffs, you can come back and clip this and make me look like an idiot. But
Oh,
um,
you could say the Colts are not making the playoffs this year. They
yeah,
are frauds.
yeah,
They
they
are
they
frauds.
might beat the Texans, but that don't mean shit this season. Like,
Doubt that'll even happen. Like, goddamn, dude. Like,
yeah, we've actually talked more about this game than I was hoping to because I just can't. It is
especially
what it
considering we wrote one line of
is.
actual notes on this.
Yeah, next on the agenda, the Falcons. Ashton already mentioned it. They get the boost of kicking their coach to the curb, and it comes out, and they finally don't blow a lead. They beat the Vikings 40-23. Both teams now 1-5 on the season. Ashton, Justin Jefferson had himself a day. Julio
Yeah,
Jones,
Justin Jefferson setting records for rookie wide receivers. So
yeah, and I'm
I
still
think
gonna
he's
pat
got the
myself on
most.
the
I think
back
he's
for
got the
that one.
most yards. Yeah, he's got the most yards for a rookie wide receiver through like 6 weeks or something like that ever in like NFL history.
Yeah, he's balling out. I told everybody that Justin Jefferson was the best wide receiver in this draft class, and he's sort of kind of proven me right. Also, a very rare instance where, I mean, he didn't get traded, but the draft pick got traded for him. Justin Jefferson, he's in Minnesota. Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. Both players seem to be having success in their homes right now. Julio Jones, I think he had what 2 touchdowns in the first half or like first quarter. He popped off. Um,
Shout out to Julio,
yeah, Matt Ryan,
the
30
number
for
one
four.
wide receiver in the NFL.
No, I don't know about that one. Matt Ryan had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Where Kirk Cousins threw 3 interceptions. Uh, this was the first real game without, excuse me, without Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison only 26 yards on the ground, and I
Alexander
don't
Hamilton, just you wait.
and
Sorry.
I don't think the Falcons have like a staunch rushing defense. So for the for Minnesota to get nothing go on the ground, that's got to be worrying for them while they wait for Dalvin Cook to come back. Um, yeah, interesting game to say the least. Finally, they don't blow a lead. I mean, that you got to look for the positives when you're 1-5, right, Ashton? And they finally didn't blow a lead.
Good job.
Yeah,
Good job.
congratulations.
Gold star for everybody except Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, moving on.
Shout out to Kirk for once again just
Stealing money, being
painful
robbing
mediocrity.
robbing Minneapolis of money right now. Next on the agenda, Ashton, the New York Jets are winless still. They're the only winless team because we're gonna get to the Giants in a second. So the Jets 0-6. The Dolphins improved to 3-3. They
I
beat
mean,
them
baby, what? I mean, guys, come on now. Like,
24 to
what do
nothing.
you expect to happen when you face the onslaught that is Ryan Fitzmagic?
Adam Gase
Did you
still
think
has a
that they
job.
ever did they ever have a chance?
Oh no.
Did they ever have any hope of trying to compete with the greatness that is Ryan Fitzpatrick? And I'll say it. I've said it once. I've actually said it more than once on this show, and I'll say it again. Stop giving head coaches credit for winning games with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
He's done it in multiple places, in multiple qualities of team. It's time we start respecting Fitz for what he is. One of the greatest backup quarterbacks in the history, if not the greatest
Yeah.
backup quarterback in NFL history.
He could definitely put a claim up there for being like, you need a fill-in guy. I'll be your fill-in guy. I mean, he didn't go to Harvard for nothing, Ashton. You got to
I was
always
gonna say,
you got
I hope the audience knew this, Martin.
yeah, you got to mention
He
he went
went
to
to
Harvard.
Harvard.
Yeah, he's a Harvard boy. You got to say that every time you talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick. Um, we got Tua Tagovailoa sighting towards the end. He went 2 for 2, 9 yards, and that
And
was
they
good
took
enough.
at it.
I was
And
gonna say,
The Dolphins said, "Wow, we got to ride the hot hand."
like I understand. Like they must be sitting there thinking like, this is our
Hey,
chance.
ladies and gentlemen, Game 1 of the World Series is over. It's the bottom of the sixth, and the Dodgers are up 8-1.
Yeah,
8-1.
yeah. Congratulations to the Dodgers. They're probably gonna win that series in a sweep. The Dolphins. I don't know why they're making this change,
Yeah, it's a
Ashton. Like,
really. But by the way, Martin, does it come off like they pre-wrote this plan like months ago before the season started? They're like, week 6,
yeah,
Ryan Fitzpatrick will probably have burnt this city to the ground, and everybody be pissed off about the Dolphins and calling for his head and wanting Tua Tagovailoa to play. We're playing Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we're playing Tua Tagovailoa in week 6. Get the billboards ready. They got all this merch ready to come out for week 6 or week 7 of the NFL season. They got all these posters, and they changed the graphics in the stadium. And they're like, all these things are in motion. We spent millions of dollars to make sure that we welcome the new king of Miami
yeah.
in with open arms. And
I
then Ryan Fitzpatrick, as usual, fucked up the plan by playing out of his goddamn mind
yeah,
again.
playing
And
well.
now
Like,
they were like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. We wrote it down.
yeah,
We spent the money. We wrote it down. He's out. No matter what, he could throw for 3 touchdowns in this game versus the Jets. He's out. And then he actually threw for 3 touchdowns in this game. And it's hard. It's hard to sit there and be like, yeah, we're gonna make this transition now because apparently our team is ready for a new quarterback. Although we know the talent level for the Dolphins has been sketchy, to say
that's the
the
thing.
least.
Fitzpatrick is leading this. Like, you're almost in first place in your division, right? Like, they're 3-3. Buffalo's 4-2. If I were to ask you right now, Ashton, who's been the best? Like, who do you think the best team in the AFC East is? You could make an argument that it's the Dolphins, right? Like,
I mean, like the only team in the AFC East that won this weekend.
yeah, like it's so weird.
I'm
Like,
kidding.
why now? Like, it doesn't make sense. Especially, you know who they got next on like who's Tua starting against next week? Have you seen their schedule?
No.
It's the Los Angeles Rams. A dude who's coming back from hip surgery is going to have to go up against Aaron Donald and the Rams defense in his first career start. If you're going to make this change, don't you make it before the Jets game, not after? Not and also not after Ryan Fitzpatrick proving that he can lead your team to victory against a couple of good. I mean, yeah, they lost to Seahawks, Bills, Patriots. All right. They beat the 49ers convincingly, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, he was the main reason for that. He was the main reason they beat the Jaguars. And, like, it's so weird. And the fact that you're throwing him out there against the Rams, like, if this comes back and he gets hurt, or if this comes back and he struggles and you have to bench him for Ryan Fitzpatrick, can you imagine? Like, Brian Flores, you look like an idiot. If like, you can't bench Tua no matter how poor he performs the rest of the season, right? Like,
And Martin, to his credit, Ryan Fitzpatrick is so good that most rookie quarterbacks are just not going to be able to flat out beat him out of a job.
oh yeah, yeah.
So it's hard. Like I guess at some point you just got to decide like, hey, you're not the starter anymore. I wonder how the team reacted to that. For sure, coming off of a dominant win
Yeah.
where like the defense pitched a shutout versus the worst offense in the NFL and threw up 24 points. But fact of the matter is, man, like most of these rooks, like even like I would wager to say that if you put Ryan Fitzpatrick versus Trevor Lawrence, Fitz would still beat him out in a
Yeah,
a
probably.
straight up
Especially early
fair,
season, yeah.
yeah, especially like a straight up fair competition for quarterback. Fitz would beat him out. It's just hard. It's like at some point, I guess you got to pull the band-aid off. It's sad to say Fitz is a band-aid, but yeah, he is right now. And guess what? Now the defense has got to play lights out next week. So we'll
Well,
see what happens.
here's my another concern I have, Ashton, and we'll probably talk about this more on Thursday because we need an injury update on Devontae Parker. So let's say Devontae Parker is not playing this week, right?
Right.
Tua, his wide receiver core going up against the Los Angeles Rams
Mike
will be.
Gesicki, come on down.
Yeah, he's at tight end. Then we got Preston Williams, Jakeem Grant, Isaiah Ford.
Hakeem Grant. Oh, it's Jakeem. You're right. You're
Jakeem,
right.
yeah, like,
Jakeem Grant straight out of Texas Tech.
you don't really have the best wide receiving core for him to be throwing at, and you're gonna put him into the ocean against Aaron Donald in his first start. Like, it just.
Oh, and by the way, Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Devontae Parker if he does play.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't get it at all. And we'll talk more about it on Thursday, but just weird. I mean, you come out, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't think has done anything. Like, normally you bench a quarterback when he's played poorly. Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't played poorly.
Yeah.
Speaking of somebody that has played poorly, the quarterbacks in this next game that we're going to talk about, Washington and New York. The Giants get their first win of the season to go 1-5. The Washington falls to 1-5, 20-19, because, and we talked about this with the Texans. Riverboat Ron, he said, you know what? I'm going for the win. I don't care if you got a fucking little piece of paper that tells me to kick the field goal for overtime. I'm going for the win. They don't get it.
Also, if you
So yeah,
inherently believe that the other team that you're going up against has more talent than you, go for the 2 point conversion. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. At the end of the day, man, the thing that I took away from this game, people want Kyle Allen to be average so bad. They want him to be an average quarterback so bad he's not even close.
yeah, I'm not.
So
I don't see it. I mean,
there was people online, they were talking about like, oh man, look at his QBR, look at his quarterback rating and everything. And I'm like, look at the final score of that fucking game, bro.
yeah.
Like, look at the opponent, look at the final score of that game.
You
They
telling
didn't
me Dwayne Haskins couldn't put up 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception against the Giants? Come on now.
and I was like, so are y'all gonna give Kyle Allen 10 games to prove that he's good enough to be a starting quarterback, right? And then pull him or what?
Nah,
So
he's got at least 2 seasons in him. We know
which
why.
by which by the way, if we're talking about talent shown, Dwayne Haskins has shown more talent than Kyle Allen
Oh,
has.
100%.
Whatever.
Also, Ashton, this one, conspiracy theorists, if Washington and New York are both going to be in the top 3 to 5
Yep.
in the NFL draft,
Head to head matchup.
Washington did it perfectly, man. If they're both tanking for Trevor, and Washington wins on that one because they're both 1-5 right now, even though it's so weird.
Everybody gets a win whether they want it or not. Like,
A couple weeks ago, Ashton and I were talking about Washington could literally go and win the NFC East, and
which they
now that
could
they've
still.
lost, well, they still could, but they've lost every single game since we fucking said that. So we kind of jinxed the football team. Uh,
Hey, there you go, Martin. That's what. See that? That's growth. Everybody, that's growth right there. He almost said it. We've been saying Washington. We trying to be. That shout out to you, Martin, for correcting yourself.
well, it's
Uh,
also because I've got their team news page pulled up right now, and they might be the football team in 2021 as well. So they apparently can't come up with a pick between the Red Wolves and the Red Tails because it just makes too much
Red
comments.
Tails would be too dope for a lot of
Yeah,
people. Also,
exactly.
Red Tails would piss off a lot of white people, and they don't want that.
Yeah,
If you don't know who the Red Tails are,
yeah.
educate
We've talked
yourself.
about the Red Tails on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Other game. This is the last one, right? Oh no,
no, we got
second to
two
last one.
two more. We don't.
Second
The
to
last
last one.
one, I mean, there's literally nothing to say about it. But this one was weird, Ashton. The Ravens 30-28 over the Eagles. The Ravens are now 5-1. Philadelphia 1-4-1. At one point, it was like 30-2, and then Philadelphia somehow just roared all the way back. Like the Ravens are like, all right, we'll be nice. But yeah, I honestly didn't really see a lot of this game, and it wasn't until really late that I realized, oh shit, Baltimore only won by 2, and didn't Philadelphia go for the worst 2 point conversion ever?
So, all right. Media suggestion: follow. First of all, you should follow Baldy's breakdowns on NFL. Hold on, let me pull up his Instagram account. He actually broke this down using the all 22 film, and it was hilarious the way that it all shook out. Of course, my phone just crashed. Anyway, the way it worked out, they were running the it's basic formation. Basic 11 personnel means there's a tight end and a running back in. Right, they're in shotgun formation. The Ravens are showing like their base defense, which is that like weird. No, wait, no, they were in nickel. They were in nickel with
Yep.
two linebackers. Option read, they adjust the offensive line to slide right.
Despite being three defenders to the left.
Right.
When you're running
They,
an option to the like, your quarterback could go to the left on the option, and you've got three people unblocked.
yes, they slide to the right. The ball gets snapped. Everybody slides to the right.
Slide
And
to the right.
they are
Slide.
holding the ball. Option read. Carson Wentz has it. He's got it with Miles Sanders in front of him. They make the read to run to the left. Sorry, from their perspective, it would, yeah, no, it's still slide to the right, run
Yeah.
to the left. Guess who's on the left hand side? Matthew Judon and Larry Foote, completely unblocked
Yeah.
because the offensive line slid to block the heavy side of the formation and they didn't communicate. So they got stopped literally with both of them holding the ball
It
at
was
the
so
four
weird to
yard line.
watch. So
They
weird to
literally,
watch.
yeah, it was basically like, yo, it would have been one thing if they ran to the right, because what Martin, you see this happen all the time, right? You leave guys unblocked because you feel like you have the pace and the
Yeah.
angle to be able to outrun them before they close the backside of the play
Yep.
and tackle you from behind, and you feel like your offensive line is going to win the blocks up front. They took 5 guys and blocked 4 sliding to the right, and then forgot about the 2 that were on the line. And then the option read, it's not even an option read at that point. It's literally you have to run to the right. But it didn't break that way for them. They miscommunicated. That was an opportunity for them in a game versus a very good football team to go out there and get a win. That's a backbreaking type game sometimes. I'm sure Philadelphia media is eating them
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
So
Especially
that
after
that
coming back from 22 points. It just
and of course it happens like to Miles Sanders, right? Like Miles Sanders, who's been like the lone bright spot of their entire season, basically. By the way, Carson Wentz is up to 14 turnovers this season, and we are in week 6.
yeah.
He has double digit interceptions and he has 5 fumbles or 4 fumbles. So, yeah, fun times, man. And it's probably not gonna get better. But they showed some flashes there. They had some moments where Carson was looking really good in the pocket. They are terrible when it comes to pass protection. They now have a former rugby player at left tackle because Lane Johnson didn't play. He
He had a good
played pretty
highlight
well.
though.
Yeah, he did. He had a nasty block, but he also has a tackle when Chuck Earl Chuck or their
Chuck
safety got
Clark.
an interception and he tackled. Yeah, Chuck Clark got an interception and his highlight is also him tackling that dude.
Yeah.
It was a fumble recovery, sorry. But yeah, his another one of his highlights of that game was him tackling that dude. So that tells you how that game went for the Eagles. But yeah, they played close in a game where honestly, man, Ravens should have ran away with it. They put up 30 points, though. 30 points is nice, especially in a game versus the Eagles team, especially against the Eagles defense that's got like quality football players on it, man. They're just not play like they're not playing. Like once again, we talked about the Cowboys, right? They got the worst NFL. They got one of the worst defenses in the NFL in the same locker room with one of the best offenses in the NFL. Eagles got one of the worst offenses in the NFL, depending on the day now, right? Like at
Yeah.
first they were just bad. Now they're playing like inconsistent, which is almost worse than just being bad because you show up every Sunday with the hopes that the good outweighs the bad
Yep. And
and gives you a chance to win.
Ashton, this is your point you just made right now is 100% the reason you can't live through the box score because Philadelphia had more passing yards, more rushing yards, or both. Like more passing, like they out yarded them and outpassed them and outrushed them. And we're both sitting here saying like how inconsistent the Eagles were. Like the box score is literally there for the people that actually watch the games, and like can go back and reference stuff, not to live through
Right.
it. And if you were to look at, I mean, Carson Wentz had 6 fucking sacks again. Like Jesus, like, just fucking block somebody, man. Um,
And on top of that, I
yeah,
mean, they went up against the team that has the third most blitzes in the NFL.
yeah,
Like the Ravens blitz for above 40% of the time. So, and for good reason. Calais Campbell, I think, had 3 sacks this past week. So
yep,
he had half those sacks versus Carson Wentz. And they're getting better, but not looking good while getting better because their competition is pretty decent. Like they're playing against good teams
yeah,
for the most part, and they're getting better throughout the course of the week. And the question is the improvement going to show itself next week? So we'll
yep.
find out.
We got
Last game on here,
yep one
Martin.
more game, and
Put him to sleep on this one. This is the from off the top rope, baby. I know you guys were all just
this is why
super
everybody
excited.
listening right now is still paying attention, is because they want to hear us talk about the Detroit Lions beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 34-16. Unfortunately, to our listeners, I only have one thing to say. It's Jacksonville. Like they're they they started the season with that random ass win or whatever it was, or playing kind of well. They beat the Colts 27-20, and then somebody said, "Excuse me, we're not supposed to be winning this year. We want Trevor Lawrence." And yeah, they've continued to play like the team Ashton and I thought they were from the start. They are not very good. The Detroit Lions, they're one of those teams where look, they might not be a good team, but when you play a bad team, I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 fucking times. You beat them. That's all. You're not supposed to have any struggles with them. You're not supposed to have it be close. You're literally just supposed to beat bad teams, and that's what they did. This was rookie watch. This is another rookie watch action. DeAndre Swift, 116 yards on 14 carries and 2 touchdowns. Nice game for him. He also had a 54-yard run in this one. So the rookie kind of getting he didn't get more of the carries though. Adrian Peterson still ran the ball more, but a nice day there for DeAndre Swift, who unfortunately started his career with that unfortunate drop in the end zone.
Yeah. But yeah, Matt Patricia gets to keep his job another week.
Yeah, another. They're now 2-3. I mean, where are they in the? Okay, so they got Chicago
Why,
and Green
why
Bay.
can't the why can't the why can't the Lions pull a Miami and just unexpectedly fire their coach who's been significantly worse than the guy who had his job before?
Yeah, that would make too much common sense. But that's the thing, though. Matt Patricia, he'll randomly win a game or two, and it'll give the front office like hope. Like, all right, here we go. Like, uh, they've won 2 of the past 3, Ashton. So I mean, and they played somewhat competitively in that Saints game. So
Shout out to Matt Stafford.
yep, continuing to do his thing. But that's our week 6 wrap up. Unless you got anything
That's
else you
it.
want to say. Yep, that
That's
is.
it, man. We got nothing else here except for 10 things you didn't want to know unless you got something for
Oh, I
asking all them
got one
questions.
question. It is hold
Asking
on.
all them questions, we got this is a segment where we just look back at the week and we ask ourselves questions. You heard at one point I asked Martin, did this game mentally break the Cowboys earlier? We got some people who wrote into the show sometimes, right into the show sometimes. We're working on that consistently happening. It's usually determined by how and what time I put the questionnaire thing out sometimes.
Yep.
So sorry about that. Follow me on Instagram if you want to write in a question for the show. I post in my Instagram story the day before every single show questions for people or question box for you to be able to write stuff in.
Yeah, this one just comes from a conversation I was having with a friend. Who are you most disappointed? Who do you think is the most disappointed team so far, or like disappointing team so far in through 6 weeks? And I'll tell
Man,
you. You
that's
go first, and I'll tell you the answer that I gave him.
I'm trying to think about this, man. Like a team that really showed up and flat out, like we had high expectations and they didn't pan out. Or sometimes if you are a real hardcore NFL fan, or like you have certain expectations for certain teams and they're just not living up to those expectations, they just may not be the team that you hyped them up to be or anything like that. But man, it's hard to sit here and not say. Well, even the Texans, we'll talk about why that is the case for them and everything that goes along with it. But it's hard to, man, I'm thinking about it, and I would dare say, man, all these teams that played like look really bad this week. Um, and then there's the good teams and there's the bad teams, man. Like there's no difference between them. I was
See,
really surprised by the Rams. I'll say I'm disappointed in the Vikings probably
yep.
the most.
I actually
Uh,
have 3 that come straight to mind, and Vikings one of them. Falcons are the other. But the most disappointing team for me so far, it's got to be the Cowboys. Um, Obviously, losing your quarterback is not good. But how many people did you hear saying this is a Super Bowl contender this year? Like how
I
like
don't. Anytime anybody tries to insinuate the Cowboys doing something well, I don't listen. That's just a point. That's just like a personal thing. And my thing was like, I knew their defense wasn't going to be. I knew their defense was going to regress from what they did last year. As soon as I heard Sean Lee was out, and then it definitely compounded when I heard Leighton Vander Esch played last night. It wasn't that big of a deal, even though it was another guy that they can have out there to make tackles. But when both of those guys went out, I was like, oh nah, man, like it's
yeah.
not going to end well. Like that's just how it is. But I can definitely see how you can say the Cowboys if you're a Cowboys fan, because it's just like, wow, their offense is going to be like high. It's going to be like a high octane, like a Ferrari with rocket fuel in it and everything. And it was for a little while, and it really is.
Yeah.
It's just they don't have everything else around it, which guess what? It's a game of 3 different phases. And if you're bad at 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3, it shows very, very quickly.
Yeah, and we got Sports Buffoons joining us here on Twitch. He said the Cowboys are the most disappointing team, even without Dak. And I gotta agree, man. With you got all that money in Zeke. Yeah, the offensive line isn't the what it was. It's a shell of itself from a couple of years ago. But I don't know. I just don't. I
There's
don't
also
understand
and
why they're not feeding.
Martin, I'm sure you've come across this too. There's also evidence out there in the world that says like offensive line play doesn't necessarily directly correlate to running back success,
Hmm.
which it's kind of dumb, but like I totally get where it's coming from because it's like the talent on the running back clearly varies from running back to running back, right? So like if you put you take Joe Mixon, you put him in front of like all 32 NFL offensive lines, he's going to get 32 different results.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you take like, and it's going to, some are going to be better, some are going to be worse, but you would imagine because of his skill level, for the most part, it would turn out positive. And then there's guys that you put him in front of an NFL offensive line or for all 32 teams, and it gets worse, or they vary based off of the situation. But never mind. Sorry. But
I
like you were just talking about Zeke, and I was just kind of like, Zeke is very talented. You know what I mean? Very skilled at his position.
like San Fran is he says sports says is San Francisco in that range of disappointment.
Oh no, I
I think
believe in the
they're
Super
just
Bowl curse
injuries.
to a very
Yeah,
T.
yeah.
I believe in the Super Bowl curse, and like you said, the injuries are just like crazy for them right now. Once again, man, so it's hard. Would you say the Chargers?
Mm,
No,
I don't know about
no,
disappointed. I would just say they're just the team that can't find a way to win. Like that's not disappointing because they've done it before in the past. But San
right? Yeah,
Francisco,
yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm too disappointed in San Francisco. I think they would win. They'd have won one or two more games so far if they didn't have half their defense on IR. Um, but I'm trying to pull up.
For
So
me, the Vikings. I say while you're doing that, I'll
yeah,
talk about why I picked the Vikings. For me, the Vikings is just like they got everything else going for them, except maybe the biggest weakness for them, offensive line. You talk about left guard situation or right guard situation, right? D line's got some talent on it. Eric Kendricks is like leading the league in tackles, which is a product of the fact that he's on the field all the time. But I don't know, man. Like you look at, there's a lot of great, talented, and skilled players on that team, and they're not able to cook up wins, and they're playing teams that they should be able to beat. And also the Falcons, man. Like you can say the Falcons
yep.
big time because of like Keanu Neal's back, and you thought that was going to make a huge difference, and for them so far it has not. And whether that's a scheme thing or whether it's a scheme thing or whether it's just like people not making plays like they have been the past couple of years, it's disappointing because they have the players, they have the talent, they have the pieces to be able to put it together, and they're still like laid out in front on the coffee table and not put together to make a team. And that's the disappointing part because you're just like they're capable of so much more, and they are not reaching that potential.
Yeah, for the Falcons for me. Falcon if I had to pick one or uh, the Cowboys obviously if we take the Cowboys out of it or like it of the teams not impacted by injury so far, it's
Right.
got to be the Falcons. And I mean, they've got the
Specifically on defense, right? Like
yeah.
specifically defensively is disappointing.
Also, the fact that they have like a fantasy fucking roster of starters on they were is this the season where like 10 of the 11 players for the Falcons were first round picks or was that last year?
I think it's this year, and yeah,
Because
it's
they got
yeah,
Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan. Half their offensive line was taken in the
Jake
first
Matthews,
round.
yeah,
Yeah, like,
exactly.
but
Matt
I
Ryan,
mean,
yeah.
I feel like Todd Gurley has kind of not really played as well as he could have. I mean, who?
So Todd's playing really well in a different kind of way. Like he's not making the crazy explosive plays or whatever. But when he runs the ball, man, he's getting yards. It's just a different kind of. He's at a different time in his career, and to be honest with you, man, he's adjusted pretty well from what I've seen. And he's still like a threat receiving wise, but most importantly, he as a running back is a huge upgrade over what they had last year.
Yeah.
Like what they were dealing with last year, where it was non-existent for them.
So going back to the Cowboys really quickly before we move on, I just don't think they're using Zeke correctly. He's yet to have a 100-yard game. He's only had more than 20 carries twice. His past four games, 14 carries, 12 carries, 19 carries, 12 carries. Like, I mean, we technically say that the Cowboys have been in every game, sort of, that they've played so far this year. Yeah, they got kind of blown at like the Cleveland game. The score wasn't
I
that
mean, dude,
close, but like,
even last night they were in a doable situation if they had Dak, but they didn't.
yeah, they're just not. I don't think Mike McCarthy either. he hates Zeke or he's just not using him correctly
I mean,
because
that's the shit that they had to deal with last year. Remember that? Where they were like, they had multiple games where they would give him all those carries in the first half, and then in the second half they would
it was
forget he
yeah
existed.
they just wouldn't give him the ball. It's fucking insane. Sports has got a couple or Buffoons has got a couple of takes here. He said the Giants have to be in the convo. The offense has been horrible with or without Barkley. The Vikings offense basically had to reset with some young linemen and wide receiver depth this season. It's technically a young offense right now, and Justin Jefferson is coming in on his own, but he has to get more consistent. And I kind of agree with all that. The Giants the Giants took a huge blow without when they lost Saquon, but I
I'm
mean,
just glad Saquon's not out there playing useless reps and
yeah,
useless
exactly.
minutes.
Like,
So
yeah, I don't think
and no, no,
The
yeah.
Giants wouldn't. Their record would probably be the same with or without Saquon being out there. But the Vikings, yeah, their offensive. I didn't realize that their offensive line was so young now, but. They'll be an interesting team to watch, like going forward, especially when Dalvin Cook gets back. And I mean, they've got a gym and Justin. I said it before months ago back when LSU was playing in the national championship. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in his draft class, and it's not even fucking close. Ashton, we got one more segment to get through before we round out today's show. Got 10 things you don't want to know about Week 6 of the NFL season.
Yeah, 10 things. We do this at the end of every single one of the NFL breakdown episodes, and it's just random facts and information that kind of help frame what's going on across the NFL. Like last week, we talked about how Aaron Donald had 4 sacks, and that put him as the number two. It put him from like six to first in terms of sacks this season. So,
Oh,
uh,
before he gets in there, sports, we actually just a couple minutes ago we're talking about the Tua Dolphins situation. Ashton, he says, did the Dolphins hurt themselves with Tua? I think Ashton and I both agreed, maybe not hurt, but definitely weird situation to bench a quarterback and put a rookie in coming off of a hip surgery when there there just didn't seem to be a need. Like they seem to be just fine with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I don't are they, I don't know.
and
They're starting
honestly,
him against the Rams. I think that of if anything is hurting themselves, it's starting Tua against the Rams in his first career start. That's my biggest thing.
so also like I just totally thought about this. I was like, Fitzmagic is having like one of his best seasons so far, and his mom can't watch it because she passed away before the season started. So
Damn.
sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But did
10,
they hurt
10 things.
themselves? Well, check back in. Give us a follow. Check back in with us next week, and we'll let you know if it how bad it hurt because your first start is against the Rams. Why not make his first start against the Jets? If that's what you're gonna do, if you're dead set on 1 month into the season, we're making the switch, no matter how well Fitzpatrick plays. Why not do it against the Jets? Where actually, now that I say that, it actually I wouldn't start him against the Jets because Greg Williams would have been instead of head hunting, Greg Williams would have been hip hunting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like Sports Buffoon said, pretty much, I totally go with it. We both are big fans of Fitzmagic around here, so we know what he's done, especially considering like it's the same thing that he's done in every team that he's been with, man. Like the guys gravitate to him. We mentioned earlier that if he got into like a QB, and most rookies are not going to be able to beat out Fitz, like flat out. That's just how it is. That's a weird thing to say. Most rookies are not going to be able to beat out Fitzmagic for a starting role. Like he's just one of those guys. And of course it helps that he garners a lot of respect from the players that he plays with. But we'll move on to our final segment before we wrap this one up. Shout out to Sports Buffoon for hopping in and being active the last part of the show here. 10 things you didn't want to know about NFL week 6. Martin, we'll start off here. 4 of the top 5 tacklers this week lost their game.
Probably because they were on the field so much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. That's pretty much what it was. 4 of the top 5 tacklers this week lost their game.
I don't think
The
Zach Cunningham made it in that list, did he?
Zach Cunningham is 4th in the NFL right now in tackles in total. The top 3 wide receivers in the NFL were all traded away from their previous team. I'm sorry, they weren't all traded. They're all on different teams than they were a year ago because Robbie Anderson was a free agent. So
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs did get traded for the pick that would subsequently become Justin Jefferson, and DeAndre Hopkins got traded away.
The best wide
So
receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, so in order is DeAndre Hopkins, Robbie Anderson, Stephon Diggs, and also like not even close to true that DeAndre Hopkins is the best
Yeah.
receiver in the NFL.
Just want really
Every team.
quickly thank you, Sports Buffoons 15. He just dropped us a follow on Twitch. We are getting ever so closer to applying for Twitch affiliate. So let some of your friends know. Let anybody that you know that's like kind of into sports that you, that you kind of like what we've talked about so far here today. It's been great interacting with you here. We are almost to the followers that we need. That's our last goal before we can apply for affiliate. So thanks for the follow there, Sports Buffoon. You've actually got. I've actually liked your takes. Sometimes you got a couple people coming in here into the chat, and Ashton and I have to like do the head cock to the side, like that's
Arch
your
nemesis Frosty
that's
Nuts.
what you think. But yeah, I actually agree on most of everything you said in the chat so far. But thank you for the follow, Ashton. You got a couple more stats for us?
Yeah, every team with a negative turnover differential is under 500, Martin, except one,
Oh yeah, who is it?
the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody turns the ball over like the Buffalo Bills.
Just something to think about. Just something to think about. Maybe they not on maybe they're not over 500 for much longer with the way that they continue if they continue to play that way. The Colts have double digit interceptions on defense, and we're 6 weeks into the season. They're the only team in the NFL that has double digit interceptions. That's pretty impressive.
Okay,
Even if
so
they're playing some of the worst teams in
I
the
was,
NFL.
I was just about to say. So are they not as much of frauds as we thought because they're getting turnovers? But
Oh,
you
calm
got to
down,
remember,
Martin.
yeah,
Calm
you got to
down.
remember the quarterbacks they're playing, man. Come on.
Next one here, this one hits hard. We're 6 weeks into the season, and if you don't know, there's a thing that gets calculated every week, and it's strength of schedule. We're 6 weeks into the season. The Texans are still number one in strength of schedule, meaning they're playing the hardest teams in the NFL, or average of the most difficult teams to beat in the NFL, in the conference and in the entire NFL. They have the most difficult schedule of the entire NFL this season.
Well, yeah,
The Chiefs,
they've only played
the
one team with a under 500 record, right? They've played the Chiefs who are 5-1. They've played the Ravens who are 5-1. The Steelers are undefeated. The Titans are undefeated. The only team they've played under 500 is the Vikings. Like
it's the
when we
Jags. Uh,
or oh yeah, oh sorry, I forgot the Jags because they don't fucking really exist in my mind.
the Jags are a figment of your imagination. Uh, the Chiefs are 29th in the NFL in terms of strength of schedule. Interesting.
Wow, the Super Bowl champions got an easy schedule to start the year. Who would have fucking thought?
Anyway, moving on here. The Titans, the Steelers, and the Seahawks are the only undefeated teams left in the NFL. Here are their opponents' combined records. The Titans, 9-20. All their opponents combined together, their wins and their losses are 9-20. The Seahawks, 10-20. The Steelers, 9-19. And Martin, I think we're about to be hoodwinked.
Yeah, because the Cardinals are going to beat the Seahawks and get, you know what I'm
Doubt
saying?
that. But I think we're being fooled. I think we may be getting hustled here because my thing is I try to be objective about this. If I'm saying the Titans are frauds,
Then you have
how
to
can
say
I
your
not say the
Seahawks.
same thing about the Seahawks and the Steelers?
Because here's the thing: just because the Titans are have a 9-20 record and the Seahawks are 10-20, look at the actual like
Teams, yes.
yes, the actual opponents. Like yeah, you are who your schedule says you are, right? But look at the teams that
No, I
they're
didn't,
like.
Martin. Martin, it doesn't get better.
Oh yeah.
Look, Martin. All right, let's go with this. The Seahawks have the most wins, right? Their opponents have the most wins combined together. Pull up the Seahawks schedule.
Okay, give me 1 second.
So yeah, like I mentioned before, the top three teams, they're the only undefeated teams in the league, and their opponents combined together, each one of them has 20 losses. None of them are over 500. As a matter of fact, none of them are even close to 500. I'm not saying that tells you anything, but it's definitely something to actually pay attention to because in some ways, it does give you context for the opponents that they've played. See, Martin's looking at the Seahawks schedule. He's like, oh,
No,
wait a
I can't like I'm either blind or okay, there they are. All right. So Falcons, okay.
Yep,
Falcons,
yep.
meh.
You see it right there.
No, well, no,
Yep.
The Falcons are better. Like we're in agreement. The Falcons are better than their 1-5 record.
All
The
right, Martin.
Patriots are two and three.
After you read these names off, are the Falcons the best team on this list of teams? Go ahead.
Yes, The Falcons are the Patriots. Falcons, Patriots, Cowboys, Dolphins, Vikings. The best team in that list,
Patriots.
record wise, yeah, but I would
No,
say the
like
Dolphins.
skill wise, I would say the
Oh,
Patriots.
I'd say the Falcons are Dolphins. I mean, the Patriots offense is very lackluster
You
right
think
now.
you think the Dolphins literally got
Even though the
smoked by
Dolphins
the
lost it,
Patriots?
they didn't get
Yeah,
smoked.
they
It
got
was like 20-11. Come on now.
that's
Uh,
domination. Okay.
yeah, okay. Their schedule isn't that great, but
All
the
right.
Titans have fucking played the Texans, the Jaguars. I mean, the only
I
good
got
team
it.
they've played is the
Hold on.
Bills.
I got my handy dandy notepad right here. Let me turn the pages for you real quick. Had to do some quick math while I was
Yeah,
in the
the only good
cigar
team the
lounge.
Titans have played so
The
far is the
Titans, yeah.
fucking Bills.
The Titans have played three teams in a row that are 1-5 currently. They played the Broncos with 2-3, and then they smoked the best team on their entire list of entire list of opponents is the Bills 4-2.
Yeah,
The Steelers have played the Giants, team we know is not good. The Broncos, a team that has a good defense, but overall, and remember, Drew Lock got hurt in that game, so they weren't even close to full strength. They played the Texans, a team we know is better than their record. They played the Eagles, a team that at the time was one of the worst teams in the NFL. And then they have played the Browns.
mm.
So you take that however you want to.
Well, Ashton, we're gonna
That's
break it
one.
down on Thursday because the 5-0
Yeah,
Steelers are getting to
I
play
was
that
gonna say
makeup
that.
game
In the
against.
next 2 weeks, all three of these teams play each other.
Yeah, so it's
So
gonna
yeah,
be yeah, we got the Titans and Steelers that we'll be breaking down on Thursday. Sports Buffoon, if you're since you're just new, we record shows on Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesdays the look back, Thursdays the look ahead. We also talk about the world of sports and some of the best of the best, worst of the worst going on around all of sports. But Ashton, that is the. Do you have anything else that you want to tell us stats wise for things you want to know or didn't want to know?
stats wise, number 20. The number's 20. Hold that in your mind. Now go to your phone, open up the App Store, download the Thrive Fantasy app.
Yep.
When you download, you set up your account. Use the promo code BrokeBoy on your first deposit. You put $20 in, you get $20 for free. So you can double the amount of money you start off your soon to be successful Thrive Fantasy prop betting career with, and you can thank us. You can thank
Yep.
us. So do
Hashtag no
that.
free promo or no free ads, Ashton. But our Sports Buffoons is actually a podcast as well. He just said in the chat that they record Wednesdays at 7:30. So anybody that's tuned in on Twitch.tv, you're gonna be able to. I'm gonna come over there tomorrow. I'm gonna check you guys out on Wednesday at Wednesday 7:30 Central. But we record Tuesdays and Thursdays, so we can we can go back and forth. You want different sports takes. I'll enjoy listening to just about anybody's sports takes as long as you're right more often than you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no free. But thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming in here, giving us a follow, giving us your takes on everything, and look forward to hearing what you guys have on Wednesday. But Ashton, as you said, Thrive Fantasy. Go ahead and give it a little download. If you like getting on the prop action, use the code BrokeBoy. $20 down gets you $20 back. And I'm hoping week 7 I can get some money. As last week we just couldn't. We were so freaking close. It always seems the Sunday night game is the ones that I get wrong the most in the props on Thrive Fantasy, Ashton. But I still have fun following along. I have fun with you each and every week. It's going to be episode 103 on Thursday. Take us out.
One thing, pay attention right here. Focus on me right here, right here. If you're watching on Twitch TV, look me in the eyes right now. I'm looking into the camera. You can see the ring light. The ring light has brought us great success, by the way. The ring light is about to usher in a whole new wave of success for the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. We have our biggest guest that we have ever had on the podcast coming up on Thursday. If things go right, we will be talking to host of the Full 48, an NBA podcast, if you're familiar with it, Howard Beck, great writer, used to work for the New York Times, used to work for the LA Daily, and now, used to work for Bleacher Report, still a writer there. He's a senior writer at all those places, knows everything there is to know about the NBA, loves to have a good time. He talks to everybody that you can possibly think of when it comes to the NBA. He will be joining us here on Thursday, live from Brooklyn. We won't be in Brooklyn. We'll be in Houston and Austin, but he'll be in Brooklyn, hopping on the show on Twitch TV. Join us here. Also, if you hit me up on Twitter at FB_playbook, or you hit up Martin at Martin, MartynPape_.
Yep.
hit him up there. Hit us up with a question for Howard Beck. We will ask it on the show. I'll make sure to give you a shout out and everything like that, man. We're going to be having a good time. There's only one thing, there's a couple things we can really left to say, but the most important things, I'll leave them at the top. Wash your hands, wash your ass. As a matter of fact, wash your whole body. And the final thing I will say on this podcast is stay home, Roger.